Good evening and welcome to our live coverage of the 2026 Democratic primary results coverage. My name is Marcellina Ventura-Douglas, your radio news reporter for the WTJX news feed on WTJX-FM 93.1. Joining me this evening is former chairman of the St. Croix Board of Elections and the Joint Board of Elections, as well as former Senator and Senate President Usie Richards. Usie, good evening.
Good evening, Marcellina, and a pleasant good evening to the viewing audience. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you all this evening, and I look forward to a very interesting night in regards to our election results.
I look forward to the night as well. Now, we are coming to you live from the Election System Office here on St. Croix, and we'll be here throughout the evening tracking every race on today's ballot and bringing you the results as they're released. Now, if you do hear any noise or anything in the background, some moving around, it is because there is activity coming in and out of the building as well, too, so bear with us as well. But now the results won't come in all at once. Ballots must first be transported from the voting centers to the election system offices, both on St. Croix and on St. Thomas, where they will be read and verified. That process, of course, takes some time. But early voting results should come in first, and when we get them, we'll be sure to get them over to you. While we wait, though, we'll break down the races and take a closer look at what voters decided today. Here are the candidates in each race. Their names are shown exactly as printed on the official ballot, which limits each name to 22 characters, including spaces. For governor and lieutenant governor, 3 teams are seeking the Democratic nomination: Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roach and Senator Noble Francis Jr., Delegate to Congress Stacey Plaskett and Senate President Milton Potter, and former Senator Donna Fred Gregory and Rodney Moorhead. For delegate to Congress, 4 candidates are seeking the Democratic nomination for delegate to the House of Representatives: former Senator Emmett Hansen, former U.S. Attorney Delia Smith, Terry Helenese, former Director of State Federal Relations and Washington Representative for the Office of the Governor, and former Senator Janelle Sarro. We have 12 candidates on the ballot for the Legislature of the Virgin Islands in the St. Thomas-St. John District. Voters may select no more than 7. Kashif Hamilton, incumbent Carla J. Joseph, incumbent Marvin A. Blyden, Lawrence Larry Busholti, Peter Bailey, incumbent Avery L. Lewis, Chanel Fina Francis, Michael A. Smith, Mayard May Leader, Joel S. Brown Connors, incumbent Ray Pupa Fonseca, and Rudolph A. Hodge Jr. The St. Croix District has 10 candidates on the ballot for the Legislature of the Virgin Islands. Voters may select no more than 7 as well. Incumbent Hubert L. Frederick, incumbent Clifford A. Joseph, Dwight Mike Cartier, Linda Nikki Brooks, incumbent Kurt Viale, Jose Bese Gonzalez, Lisa J. Charles, Nemi Williams Jackson, Omar B. U. Henry, and incumbent Kenneth Kenny Gittins. Now, Usie, we have a number of incumbents on the ballot, both in the St. Croix and in the St. Thomas district, and we have some challengers as well, too. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the challengers, especially the new faces that we're seeing on the ballot this year?
Well, we do have a number of challengers in the St. Thomas-St. John district. In some instances, they're not all new faces, but one of the new faces in this particular case as a challenger is on Kashif Hamilton, a DJ known as on DJ Country, has worked in the Legislature Public Affairs Office. We also have someone that has run for the office of Senator before, Lawrence Larry Busholti, who campaigned for the legislature previously in 2014, 2020, and 2022, and has a 17-year background serving on the boards of elections. You have a newcomer to the legislature race in the person of Mr. Peter Bailey, the owner of a media company, a journalist, author, and filmmaker. In addition to these 3, we have Chanel Fina Francis, who has worked previously in the legislature, had previous campaigns in 2022 and 2024, and works in the Department of Education. You have a Michael A. Smith, who also ran for the legislature previously, and he ran in 2024, works at the Virgin Islands Port Authority, and also the Raphael O. Wheatley Skills Center. You have a Mayard May Leader, is a longtime community advocate, a founder of May's Kitchen Hope for Haiti. We have a Joel S. Brown Connors, who also previously ran for the legislature in 2022. finishing fifth in the Democratic Party primary, lost in the general election, has worked in various fields from EMT, police officer, a rescue technician, farmer, and also a civil air patrol commander. And the last challenger, and also a newcomer, is Rudel A. Hodge Jr. He serves as a delegate to the 6th Constitutional Convention, an attorney, and secretary of the Family Resource Center's Board of Directors.
All right. Now, some of the incumbents that we are seeing, Senator Carla J. Joseph, for instance, she's seeking a 4th term in the legislature after serving in the 34th, 35th, and the 36th legislature. We also have Senator Marvin Blyden. He's been somewhat of a frequent top runner ever so often when we've seen in the in these elections. He's running for his 7th term after serving in the 31st through the 36th legislatures. Senator Avery L. Lewis, who is a freshman senator, former St. Thomas Water Island administrator.
That's correct.
And then we also have Senator Ray Popa Fonseca, who is seeking a 3rd term after serving in the 35th, a 2nd term after serving in the 35th and the 36th legislatures. So we have, if all of the incumbents are successful in the primary, we'll have at least 3 possible new faces. But if not, there could be somewhat of a shakeup. Do you anticipate seeing a bit of a shakeup in the St. Thomas St. John district this year?
It'll be surprising if the 4 incumbents who are in the Democratic Party primary in the district of St. Thomas St. John do not make it out to the general election. I say surprising because we realize that we have 2 independent members in the St. Thomas St. John district. We have one of the incumbents running for a different office in government for lieutenant governor, and given the challengers who have in fact over the period of time includes at least 2 or 3 persons that have ran previously, I do not expect that the seat and the opportunity to represent the Democratic Party will be lost by any of the 4 incumbents, and so that we have 12 candidates, 4 incumbents. We have 8 persons vying to get 3 of the party primary seats for the general elections.
Yes. Well, I want to shift gears. Let's bring it over to St. Croix now. And we do have some new challengers on the ballot as well to speak to us a little bit about, who these challengers are.
In the district of St. Croix, we have a gentleman by the name of Dwight Mike Cartier, who is a local business owner, a federal government subcontractor, worked for a senator previously in the legislature. This is his first time running in the public office. And also for her first time is Linda Nikki Brooks, a longtime recording artist, a former Calypso monarch, and a manager of the Kings Hill Funeral Home. You have Jose Bese Gonzalez, who is also a first-time candidate, has been in law enforcement, working at the Adult Correctional Facility, the Youth Rehab Center, and is well known throughout the community for the organization that he started and promotes over the past 30 years, which is the Positive Guidance Youth Club. Lisa J. Charles, who ran last time as an independent candidate, this year is running as a Democratic Party candidate. She's worked in the Department of Human Services, specifically in Senior Citizen Affairs. Ophelia Nemi Williams-Jackson is not a newcomer. She's ran previously in the Democratic primary. She ran in 2000, 2018, and 2022. Her background is in education, a former deputy commissioner of housing, parks and recreation. And then the last challenger in the St. Croix district is Omar B.U. Henry, who I've known to work in the legislature as a chief of staff for the at-large senator, has been his policy advisor and a longtime employee of the Department of Education, and more importantly to him, and I suspect to members of the Democratic Party, he's been a long-time advocate and participant in the political activities of the Democratic Party.
Now, similarly, in the St. Croix district, we do have 4 incumbents. Senator Hubert L. Frederick, commonly known as Lorenzo, who is serving his freshman term right now, and he's seeking a 2nd term. He ran unsuccessfully for the legislature back in 2022 and for lieutenant governor alongside Molito Smith. That's back in 2014 and 2018. We also have Senator Clifford Joseph Sr., also served freshman senator seeking a 2nd term. Kurt Viale is seeking his seventh term after serving in the 31st through the 34th legislature, leaving to run for governor in 2022 and returning to the 36th legislature as St. Croix's top vote getter. And then we have Senator Kenneth Kenny Gittins, and he's seeking a seventh term for the legislature. Now, we have, again, kind of going back, wondering if that St. Croix race is going to mirror that of St. Thomas if, if all four of the incumbents move forward in the primary, those possible three new faces that we'll see going forward into the general election.
I don't want to use it, excuse me, the term whether or not it would mirror the similar sentiments that I shared for the St. Thomas St. John district. What I think is important for the viewing audience and the public to recognize that this is in fact a party primary. We have 4 Democrats who have been loyal to the Democratic Party, has represented the party over a number of years in most instances, and then in 2 instances, they have only getting ready to complete their first term. And so that I expect that the loyalty to the party will be rewarded in a primary election for the Democratic Party. And so if that follows true, then we're talking about looking at the challengers. And when we speak about the challengers, we have 6 of them who now will be vying for 3 seats. Now the order in which the candidates, based on the results of tonight's election, will appear on the ballot, does that mean that the incumbents will run 1, 2, 3, 4?
This is true.
And does that mean that none of the challengers can move up into the top 3 or the top 4? But that is left for us to be able to see when the results come in.
Yes, and we're always talking about probability. So there's a high probability that the incumbents will move forward, but I guess I'm always one for living for the drama and seeing if there's any shakeups. But it's to be determined. But moving on down to the ballot races, we have 4 candidates are seeking 2 seats in the Virgin Islands Board of Education representing the St. Croix district. Mojaniah Mo Dennis, incumbent Terrence T. Joseph, Christopher Jacobs Jr., and incumbent Winona A. Hendricks. In the St. Thomas St. John district, 4 candidates are also seeking 2 seats in the Virgin Islands Board of Education. Incumbent Era C. Lockhart, Michelle M. Cawthron, Devontae J. Xavier, and incumbent Judy M. Gomez. I want to stick with the Board of Education right now. We've seen some very familiar names, people who have served on the board for a number of years. These incumbents, Terrence Joseph, Winona Hendricks, Judy Gomez, Era Lockhart. I think it would be definitely interesting, if they were possibly unseated in the primary. But I want to speak about the challengers. Based off of, you've been paying attention through the campaign season, do you think that the challengers made a strong effort to try and unseat the incumbents?
And that is an interesting observation, at least from where I sit. We look at the Board of Education, and we start here in the District of St. Croix, and you hear the names Terrence T. Joseph or Terrence Thomas Joseph, Winona Hendricks, who are not only long-term members of the Board of Education, but long-term employees that work within the Department of Education. The challengers are young individuals. And what concerns me that the race is only going to be left up to name recognition, given the fact that we've gone through months since the filing deadline, months of campaign time, and you haven't heard or seen, and we won't be able to align name with faces, names with particular policies for the younger candidates that haven't taken the opportunity to realize that it is a public office.
Yes.
And if you're going to unseat one of these experienced long-term members of a Board of Education, and the same would apply in the District of St. Thomas and John, it requires you to get out there, pound the pavement, similar to what senatorial candidates are doing, the delegate to Congress candidates are doing, what the candidates for governor and lieutenant governor are doing. And in some instances, and I probably from the old school, people will say that they've been making this sort of approach on social media, what is Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever it is, and we will discuss later
Yes.
the category and the age grouping of the largest number of people that are actually going out to vote. And so if you're not reaching the largest numbers of voters, then you risk the chance of not being successful.
You know, I had the opportunity, I did meet with, did get an opportunity to meet both Mojaniah Dennis and Christopher Jacobs Jr., both very young in their early 20s. And, you know, they seem very, you know, determined. But like you say, you know, you didn't necessarily hear from them. And you spoke a little bit about that generation, somewhat of a generation gap. You don't do the TikToks and the, you know, I don't do the TikTok either, but you know, I saw them on Facebook. I saw them in some of the forums that they had in the community as well too. But you know, in the campaign process, I'm wondering, you know, as one of the part of the older generation, you know, you didn't hear necessarily from them, and you know, as we talk about who is actually going out to vote, if they miss that mark.
Yeah, and what was interesting, like you spoke of the names of the two young persons that are running for the Board of Education. And a classic example of that, at least in my mind, I had an opportunity to meet one of the two in a bar stool conversation. He introduced himself. He says that he's running for the Board of Education. But if you ask me tonight which one of the two persons I met, I can't now put a name to the face of the person that I met that introduced themselves to me and said, oh, I'm running for the Board of Education.
Yeah.
And so there's no stick-to-itiveness that would allow you to be able to have not only name recognition, but an understanding of their intent and what they can be able to contribute, representing the people, the students, and the parents on the subject matter of education.
Yeah, I think that sentiment can also go for the challengers in the St. Thomas district as well too, you know, kind of not necessarily hearing or seeing much of their campaign. But I do want to move on to the Board of Elections. We have 3 Democratic candidates that are seeking 2 seats. We have Kevin A. Rodriguez and Barbara A. Peterson, and incumbent Atanya S. Springett. There is no primary for the St. John's seat on the Board of Elections and no primary for the 2 St. Croix seats on the Board of Elections. So, you know, 3 Democratic candidates, 2 seats, 1 incumbent. You know, we'll see, what is that, you know?
I know, you notice you generated a smile on my face in regards to the Board of Elections race in the district of St. Thomas, St. John. You have a government house operative in this particular instance, a deputy chief of staff.
Yes.
In Mr. Rodriguez. The governor is the titular head, as we speak today, of the Democratic Party. You have Barbara Peterson, who has served in the capacity as an administrator, St. Thomas Water Island administrator, serves in an appointed position within the current executive branch and under the leadership of the governor. And since we are focusing on the Democratic Party primary, I'm making these observations under the impression that they would have a long reach and a lot of support within the structure of the party to be the 2 individuals that would come out of a party primary to move on to the general election for the Board of Elections.
Yeah. Now, I want us to go back to, we were talking about campaigning, you know, and we know for the gubernatorial race, we have been inundated with the candidates that have been campaigning and trying to earn voters' vote, you know. But speaking about those who are running for the boards of education, the Board of Elections, maybe even some of the senators, are candidates doing enough to earn voter support?
It depends on the approach and the understanding that the candidates have. Because you and I can say that they have not been doing sufficient or as much outreach that is necessary. Now, one of the things, and people used to laugh when I share this observation with them, I say, well, tonight at 7 p.m., which has already passed, the Democratic Party primary is over. And so when we speak of the subject matter of visibility, if all those signs that we see on the side of the road were voters and could get up and move to the polling place, and whether they're going to Canigata, whether they're going down to St. Joseph, whether they're going to Claro Marco, then we would expect a large turnout and a lot of votes. But the visibility does not guarantee that you could move the populace, you could make the voters interested in going out to the polling place, and so that outside of the visibility that you could have pop up on social media, that you could have pop up on the side of the road with signage, outside of the visibility that you may have on television ads, outside of the visibility that comes with radio ads, it requires you taking the opportunity to be in forum and places where the voters can feel, can touch, and hear, and understand the interest that you have in representing them. And so that is something I think needs to definitely improve. When I was involved in politics, we made it a point to try to go door to door in every community.
Yes.
I know today people are scared to go into certain neighborhoods, but we took that opportunity because if you're going to ask for vote, to go into the neighborhoods where your constituents have to live every day of their life.
I think it's about being creative as well too, even if it's like, if you're having maybe community meetings, if you don't want to go door to door, maybe, you have neighbors come together where you can go and you can meet neighbors all collectively and answer questions. I think it's just about being creative. And I guess my hope is that candidates or independent candidates, and maybe some of the shortcomings that we're talking about this evening, candidates kind of learn from that to then, how they're going to adjust ahead of the November elections.
But that's an important observation that you mentioned, because there are some candidates that you identify particular neighborhoods. We know that Marcellina lives in this particular neighborhood, and we asked her to organize an event where her neighbors could come over, and so that instead of having to just pass by a door, shake a hand, or if they're not home, leave a pamphlet or leave some sort of flyer, you're able to bring them to one location where you have an opportunity for interaction. And that too is very impactful in comparison to having an opportunity to touch and to feel the constituents that you would like to represent.
Yeah. I want us to speak about some of the younger candidates as well too that we're seeing on the ballot, kind of going back to the Mojanaya Dennis and the like. And even in the Senate race, Rudel Hodge, one of the younger candidates as well too, seeking office. Do you think that there is some sort of maybe some sort of political training that the younger generation maybe need to get into before seeking public office?
For me to answer yes to that question would leave the impression that because you're young, that you're not capable in assuming office at a young age.
Yeah.
What I would say that is important for individuals that seeking an opportunity to move on to the one of the largest forums in regards to although it's an entry level in politics in the Virgin Islands, is that you should have the opportunity to have been engaged and participate in structural organizations that are established, that works towards particular goal, that has an opportunity to interact and give you also an opportunity to learn and understand how you best deal with groups of people, because it is exactly what it is that, you can't expect once you've had the experience of a group of people that you will always have your way, or that your will always be what will happen. But you understand that it requires some give and take, exchange, and more importantly, the patience to tolerate and understand different opinions. Because if you can't do that, then you will find yourself in a difficult position in elected body, whether it's the board of elections, board of education, or the legislature.
I want to shift gears to early voting. We speaking about the age groups, we're speaking about, just kind of engagements. One of the things that we did see with early voting this year was a large increase in voters between the ages of 18 to 44. So back in 2022, early voters accounted for 297 of, registered voters who came out to vote in the Democratic primary versus this year, you had 659, so a 121.9% increase. And then, within the 45 to 64 age group, 997 back in 2022 versus 1,145 this year, seeing a 44.9% increase. And then the 65 and older, 837 voting in 2022 versus 1,357 this year, 62.1% increase. So we saw a large number of people, turn out to early vote this year. Why do you think that was?
Well, the first observation I would make, and in regards to the turnout and the increase, is that in this particular Democratic Party primary, there's for the gubernatorial race, there's no incumbent, and so we have three newcomers
Yes.
that are running for the office of governor and lieutenant governor, despite the fact that one of them running for governor is the lieutenant governor, and that has created, I believe, the appropriate word is some stimulus, some interest in the campaigning, in the individuals that are the political operatives of these three candidates who are running. And also, I've had the opportunity to observe and to be present at rallies for each one of the three who are running in the gubernatorial Democratic primary, and noted that there was an increased number of young people wearing T-shirts. Now, the fact that you're wearing a T-shirt doesn't mean that you're going to vote, but I was of the clear impression, based on how I see them behave and their participation at these events hosted by these gubernatorial candidates, that they intend to make their voice be heard and to participate. Yeah. And then the one constant, which I think that a lot of times that people don't acknowledge, and when I was speaking about the social media communication, the largest number of persons who are going out to vote are 65 and over.
Yes.
And not individuals who are likely on a daily basis engaging in a Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. And so that those people are constant. And this is why it's important to make sure that although you represent a young age group, that you'll be able to reach out to all of these age groups in understanding what you stand for in the pursuit of public office.
I think, though, that the increase that we saw in campaigning on social media across those areas, I think that definitely accounted for that increase in that turnout in the younger voters.
Yes.
As well too. So it's now about candidates finding that sweet spot where they're still, appealing to the older generation, now also appealing to the younger generation to kind of get them out and continue to vote as well too. Now,
if I may, and I don't want to leave the impression that persons 65 and over do not engage and have participate in the social media activities like Facebook.
Yes.
I'm sure that there's a large percentage of them that do, and then more importantly, almost everyone, irrespective of your age, have a cell phone.
Yes.
And when you get on a cell phone, and we don't buy newspapers no more, so if we read a news article on your phone, you also have advertisement come up, and then you have the electronic news entities that people go to, both one in St. Croix and one in St. Thomas, and so
yes,
that is very important.
Yes. Now, early voting, we saw in total about 7,000 Democrats come out to vote. As of today, right now, to total turnout in today's primary, we saw 2,885 voters turn out. So definitely the majority coming from early voting as well too. Usie?
No, but there's also a historical perspective to the early voting, and I'm glad that the legislature in the past made some changes. If you can recall, in the past, the first Tuesday in September used to be primary day. It was a public holiday.
Okay.
It cost the government money for that holiday. The children were out of schools. And so that the change of getting rid of primary election as a public holiday and the changes of early common filing dates and the changes of moving primary up to August um, became beneficial with the implementation of these early voting opportunities.
Yes.
And then one of when they first decided that we have primary elections on Saturdays, the other thing is that there was complaints for religious reasons, like people who are Seventh-day Adventists
Yes.
will not be able to participate, and so that they put in these opportunities to cast your vote outside of today, Saturday, August 1st. You had early voting, and it appears that a large percentage of the voters in the Democratic Party primary have decided that they are going to make maximum use of early voting, and so that when Saturday come, I could go do my shopping, my washing, and avoid, in some instances, people don't like to be
in the crowd.
And being pursued while they're on the way to the poll. Give Marcellina a vote. They don't say hand out the little numbers. This is my number. Back in the days, they won't say give you a name. They just give you a number and a piece of, this is my number is 12. Just remember 12. You don't have to remember my name.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things as well too for early voting this year, in 2022, you had 15 early voting days territory-wide, compared to this year where you had only 10 early voting days, but still surpassing that even and only 7 early voting days on St. John. So just the numbers have definitely been interesting. I think people were a bit motivated this year as well. So I think
definitely, definitely, and as you pointed out, with the reduction in the number of days in 2026 as compared to 2022, did not make a difference. People just needed to know when it's available, what days, what time, and people take the opportunity to go out and cast their vote. And imagine one of the things that concerns me, I don't mean to put you in this position, is when we get the supervisor of elections to come on here and join us, I would like to know how much did it cost?
Yes.
How much did the government have to pay for the conduct of a political party primary, in this case, the Democrats?
Yes.
We know we had early voters, that's a little over 7,000. As of 6 o'clock, we could add another 2,500 on that, and let's just call it 10,000 people voted in a primary election that probably cost $25, $30, $35, $40,000.
Yes.
That is how much dollar per voter that cost us, and only for a select few of registered voters. Only people who are registered Democrats had the opportunity to vote in an election where the government is paying for it.
And I think that's the perfect segue for you and I to talk about, whether or not, there needs to be a change if the government is going to foot the bill for this election, for a primary, for the Democratic primary, whether or not it should be an open primary. I mean, you are not a registered Democrat. I am a registered Democrat. So I voted today, but just in fairness, if my tax dollar is going to be used to pay for this primary, I feel like you should have been able to get in a vote as well too, because your tax dollars also went towards it.
That's correct. And I was instrumental in introducing the legislation that ended up appearing before the U.S. District Court judge that attempted to mandate political parties to conduct their own primary. And it behooves me that when the Republican Party of the United States have their national convention, when the Democratic Party of the United States have their national convention, the Republicans and the Democrats in the Virgin Islands, territory-wide, they conduct an election to determine whether or not Marcellina will be one of the delegates elected to go to the convention of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party to cast a vote for their presidential nominee. And so if they're capable of organizing a voting process for convention delegates to attend a convention where it's the only place, particularly those of us from the United States, Puerto Rico, and these other territories, where it's the only place that they could say they cast a vote for a president, because after the convention done, they don't vote for president nowhere else.
Yes.
And if they could organize conventions In the past, political parties did this. Democratic Party, Republican parties, had a convention at a particular place. They organized. Registered Democrats comes in, identify themselves, show they are card-carrying members of the party, and they cast a vote for the candidates, senators, and individuals running for the office of governor and lieutenant governor.
Yeah. If this continues, I mean, well, let me ask you, see, is there any possibility that you're going to be changing any type of parties to become a Democrat to vote in a primary? I'm pulling your leg at this point.
And you're not pulling my leg. You bring me back to the point of answering the initial question that you had.
Yes.
Which is, if in fact the government continues to pay for party primaries,
yes,
just like in a lot of jurisdictions on the mainland, they have what they call open primaries. Like in the state of Georgia, today is primary day. You could go up, you're a registered voter, and there's a table. When you get to the table, you could tell them, could you give me a Republican ballot? May I have a Democratic ballot? You said pick which one of the ballots them you want, because the primaries are open. But these primaries should be open in the Virgin Islands if in fact we want to pay for them. So that all you have to do on today's primary day election is prove that you are in fact a registered voter and go in and cast a vote. Now, people in the political parties will not like to hear that because, and I understand the sentiments, I'll be uncomfortable to be a member of a Democratic Party, to be a Democratic Party candidate, and feel comfortable that independents, ICMers, Republicans could come vote in my primary to tell me who's going to represent my party. But we're only saying this because we are paying for your primary.
For the primary.
And so this is why the concern arises.
To the tune of $250,000, which is what the election system budgeted. They budgeted about $250,000 for the primary, paid for by the government. So, I also question if they're...
Don't do that. You have the viewers at home jumping off the couch and out of the seats, because I was being nice. I was saying that the primary...
You were saying about
40, 50, 60,000. But
no.
if you're saying
inflation,
$250,000 for a primary that resulted in almost, if not less than 10,000 out of 37,000 registered Democrats going out to vote.
Yes. So
I can't do the math so quickly in my head, but how much dollars per voter does that cost? Of you speaking of the figure of 250,000?
I'm not the mathematician in my family, but I also question whether or not there are residents who, just in order to feel like they're getting the most bang for their buck in a vote, that they're registering as Democrats solely to be able to participate in a primary, since the government has been funding it, where they may not truly be Democrats. They may want to be no party. They may want to be independent, but you're registering as a Democrat so that you can, have a say.
You're trying to poke the pig, and I think we have to wait until the state chair comes here and join us this evening.
Okay.
I understand his invitation, but I will at least add some commentary to your concern. Now, one of the things that we must acknowledge also, in what we as spectators from the outside look at the gubernatorial race, we look at the senatorial race in the Democratic Party, that they were able to bring an interest to individuals who support them, who may not have been registered Democrats, but who may have been registered voters, to change the voter registration to give the type of support to the candidate that they are reverencing and the one that they would like to see win, and so that they register Democrats so they could be able to vote in the primary, whether they vote early vote or whether they voted today. So that is also important aspects, and these candidacies do in fact generate additional registered members of a political party. And I think when we get the state chair here, I'm going to ask her one of the questions. Once you give me the opportunity, there's a distinct difference between being a registered Democrat and a card-carrying member of the Democratic Party. And so that doesn't mean because you're a registered Democrat, you're one aligned with its principles, its philosophies,
very much so,
and its beliefs. But I think that's a distinction with a great difference.
It is, very much so. I want to shift a little bit of gears now. Go to some of the things that we've been seeing just this campaign season. Let's talk a little bit about campaign endorsements. Now, we've seen a number of campaign endorsements, some big endorsements as well too. Let's start specifically with the Roach Francis endorsements. We saw former delegate to Congress Donna Christensen endorsing the Roach Francis team, as well as Governor Albert Bryan Jr. And those comments that residents saw with him saying he sees the team as a continuation of the administration and the work that they have been doing. Do you think that hurt or helped the Roach Francis team in any way?
The governor's endorsement?
The governor's endorsement and the comments of seeing it as a continuation of the Brian Roach administration.
I may be a little prejudicial in my response, because my response is going to be embedded in the fact is how do we perceive the current administration over the past 8 years, and given one's perception, whether it's the rendering of services, whether it's in fact its opportunity to meet the expectation of the community, I think the results of today's primary is going to speak loudly to the fact of whether or not a continuation of the current administration is something that is endorsed and approved by the voters of the governor's Democratic Party. And it will also speak to the fact of whether or not it is not an endorsement of the governor's Democratic Party when he endorses the candidacy of his lieutenant governor and his running mate, and make reference to it as a continuance. When I heard that, I was just strictly thought of continuum care, and if you're going to refer to a continuance, I think that it doesn't give the leeway that Lieutenant Governor Roach and his running mate Novelle Francis trying to make the presentation, because this harness has already been strapped around their necks to say to them, hey, you can't tell me now that you're going to be doing something different when you've been part of an administration for 8 years. And that's a terrible position for the lieutenant governor and Senator Francis to be in, to try to make that exception clear to the voting populace in the Democratic Party primary.
Yeah. Now, I want to continue our conversation, but right now we do have the supervisor of elections, Miss Carolyn Fox, joining us here on the set. Ms. Fox, how are you doing today?
Good evening. Good evening. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, and I'm glad to be here.
Ms. Fox, tell us, what are we seeing right now? When do you think we're going to see some numbers coming out?
Well, right now, 2 of the early voting machine has completed tabulating. So now you got to understand that those machines were not tabulated. So it takes a few minutes for the votes to tabulate, and we have over 7,000 votes. So both districts just finished 1 machine, and there's 1 more to do. Once that tabulation is done, the early voting results will be handed out. And as soon as the voting centers come in, then we start rolling out those numbers. So we should be getting that within maybe the next 15 minutes or so.
Okay, all right. Now, from an administrative standpoint, how would you assess today's election?
Today's election was slow to me. Started out slow. No way that I went, I saw a line. I started in St. Thomas and St. John. And usually on primary election day, you do see people line up to vote. There were some comments about persons shopping for school be opening in August, so I don't know, next week. But I am happy that early voting did well. So our goal is to push early voting. Early voting did 34%, and the numbers that I just got for 7 o'clock is 14%. So for a primary election, it's average, right? 34 and 14 is about right for the primary. I was looking at the 2022 numbers. So you usually will get more for the general election. Primary election, if you get 40%, that's a good turnout.
Okay.
And we're close to that.
All right. Usie?
Oh, thank you, Marcellina. And Supervisor Fox, I did mention before you found yourself in a hot seat that I do have a couple of questions for you. And none that you are, in fact, responsible for, but I think you are responsible for letting us in the community know exactly what the real status is. So how much did it cost for the conduct of this primary election? You have early voting, you had to have three, and I'm just going to give a little description, not just for you, but for the audience. You had 3 voting centers on St. Croix, 3 on St. Thomas, 2 on St. John, and then the preparation, the manpower, because each one of the judges and the clerks that appear at each one of these voting centers have to be paid a stipend to be there. How much money did you set aside in your planning for the primary? And then if you could tell us about how much, in your estimation, that it actually costs for the primary that ends this evening.
Well, we were allotted $275,000, right? It used to be $250,000 for many years. So $275,000 is adequate with the cost of living. Again, it's not just the election officials. We have to pay transportation company, catering, and out of that funding also takes the ballots, right? All the costs to do the election. So it's not just the election official. I think it's reasonable. I will do an average just for today, so I could give you that number. I don't have just for today. It's easier to do that. Early voting, you're paying for them for those 5 days. They can't leave there, so you're catering for them and the transportation that it took to get the machines. And in St. John, you have to put it up on the ferry and get it up there. So there is a cost with all that we do, but it was $275,000. For the general election, we allotted $450,000. So we already got that because we can't wait till October when the fiscal year starts to get the funding. We have to start preparing from now. So we got the funding in this year. And if there's a runoff, they will do that budget in the 2028 budget. 27, 28, 27 budget, and it's usually about 350,000. They go a little less than the 450,000. We've done it twice. I've done it twice, so I'm preparing accordingly. But it's 350,000. So that would be the funding that we need. So again, we were getting 250 from 2012 to now. So 275 is reasonable because, like I said, cost of living for the catering went up. Everything went up. So
yeah, and Marcellina, this is just my final question to the supervisor. I made an inquiry of you not to have you feel that you are responsible for clarifying what it costs. I am making this inquiry in regards to the cost that we as taxpayers and government is paying for this one party to conduct a primary. Can you tell us if you do know that the legislation and the confusion that they had in its implementation that require political parties to conduct their own party primaries? Well, what was the legal snafu in that, or what needs to be done by the legislature? Because I don't know what your position is on open primaries. Open primaries mean that all of us who register to vote could come in. You're familiar with the term, come in and vote in a party primary, whether or not we're Democrat or not.
That question is more for the board, right? Because I'm the supervisor, right? So whatever law they pass, I'm going to follow. But the Democratic Party issue that we had legally is because the law is still the law, right? So the law still says the election system conduct the primary. So unless they change the law, we have to do it. Now, the Republicans and in the ICM, they opt for caucus or whatever they do, right? So they don't have the 7 that requires it. I think, and everybody thinks, that the party feel that with themselves, they can't do it well, functionally, fairly, or whatever the situations are. So they want the government entity to do that position for them. The primary process is really a nominating process. It's called a primary election, but it's really a nominating process. Right. And so that's why it became back and forth a legal battle. But again, based on the law and what was passed, we conducted the primary. We do primary, just happen to be for the Democrats, but we do primary elections, and then we'll do the general election for the total.
Okay. Now, based on today's experience, did you, I guess, what improvements, are there any improvements that you'd like to make or see ahead of November?
We don't have much because we make improvements from the last election to now. Mm-hmm. So what we did, we executed today. Like I said, I visited all the polling sites. We did have some issues with some of the machines, just one pushing in the paper. I think it was humid. St. Thomas office is humid, so we look at maybe leaving the air condition on all the time during the year, unlike St. Croix, which is air conditioned. But other than that, we have voting technicians at every voting site. So they jumped on it and they corrected the problem. So no one was disenfranchised. And like I said, the flow was very slow, but all the election officials are trained and experienced, and so they do a great job.
Okay. Now, give us some of the key dates and deadlines and stuff that voters should keep in mind as we move forward towards the general election.
So, for us, the big day will be certification, which is next August 11th. Mm-hmm. Certified every 10 days after this election. And then the next big date for the public is August 25th, us too, casting a lots. That's when you get the numbers for all of the independents now that was sitting and waiting for after the primary election. So that's on the 25th, open to the public, 5:30 in person. And then the board is going to conduct an audit on the 6th of August. So that's something new, and they will be having a meeting on that in a couple of days. And then September 8th, first day for receipt for absentee ballots. So the process continues. We don't take a break. So we continues from tonight to tomorrow. We start preparing for the next election. We're prepared. We'll be moving up more equipment. We'll be opening more voting centers, right? So for the general, we go to 5 voting centers, right? 5 here, maybe 4 on St. Thomas, and the same 2 in St. John. But we have to expand because it's general election. Early voting, I know I heard you talking about the number of days. So we look at the number of days based on what's going on, like gubernatorial or whatever. We'll add days or subtract days. We look at the historical data also. And our early voting statistical report is on the website from 2014 to present. I know there was an article about St. John. We know St. John historically, and we're not going to expend taxpayers' money to open St. John for the number of days that we open St. Thomas and St. Croix. 5,000 voters. St. John have 139. It's not valued. So we've been doing this for over 10 years, and so we know that it's historic data that we did not open St. John for the number of days as St. Croix and St. Thomas. We found this year also that St. Thomas didn't do as much. Usually St. Thomas is always ahead with early voting.
That's
right?
correct.
St. Croix this time was ahead with early voting. We had 2 days that we topped 500, the last day and the first day, 509 and 530 something. And St. Thomas hasn't topped 500. So it's been good. Like I said, we push early voting. We have customer service from the staff. We experience, so we love the early voting. And so we continue to push that. So we have 0 people coming on election day.
Right.
We could save money that way.
Yes.
And I have just one
Go ahead.
statistics that we did not inquire of you about how many absentee ballots.
I have that. That will be next time your question. I know you're coming with it. So I
Oh
have
yeah, for the primary because
Yes.
yeah, I know you know the primary, but I'm asking because when you come back and you give Marcellina and I results and we're talking about the standings of the candidates and someone may be ahead of someone by 10 or 20 votes and absentee ballots really matter. So how many you sent out, and then when is the board who counts the absentee ballots?
Yes.
When are they expected to begin counting absentee ballots? Or it's probably a question if you want us to say for when.
No, I have the question.
When it's
I have the
okay.
answer.
Okay.
That's nice.
So St. Croix has done great this year. They have 280 absentee ballot
Wow.
applications.
Okay.
To date, we received 217.
Wow.
Because people were allowed to request
So you
absentee
have
ballots today.
mail-in, walk-in, exactly. They don't need a reason. Email, you cover for the military. We didn't have much military. We had like 2 on St. Croix. So that's it. And we had some email. Now, email, they have to waive their right because the only person, Miss Marie Felix, and Miss Vincent in St. Thomas, who has been around since Usie time, they're the only one that see the absentee ballot.
Okay.
Because once the absentee ballot come on and it's printed, after the board looks at it, it's a Xerox paper. So then they have to remake that ballot to feed it into the DS200.
Okay.
Every ballot goes into the DS200. So they do duplicate. Somebody reads out the vote and somebody copies it on a ballot form and they check it, duplicate and duplicated. And we've been doing this since 2014 and it's fed into the ballot. So that's St. Croix numbers. St. Thomas has always been more with absentee ballot. So they have over 372 absentee ballots out and they have maybe 103 that came back. So the ballots are coming back. We encourage folks to vote soon as they get the ballots. They have until August 10th to get them back. But we encourage them, as you see what's going on in the states with Trump and absentee ballot. The mail, we don't control the mail, so we want them to make sure they put it in the mail and send it back as soon as possible.
And you do it based off of the date that's posted on the what?
We don't need post date. Our law don't
Okay.
require post date. So
Okay.
but the post office sometimes stamp them and they work well with us. If the box is getting full, they'll even call us and say, come today because it's fuller than normal. So we pick up 5 o'clock on the last day, and that's the absentee that's counted. The board plans to start absentee on Monday.
Okay.
Monday, because they want to get started. And usually they do 3 terms, maybe first, middle, and the end. So they're going to start on Monday.
Okay.
And just for clarity in your response to Marcellina, I know in the past the law has saying that they had to have been post office stamped no later than the day of the election. But you're saying that is no longer required.
No.
But is there a time frame after the election that the ballot must arrive? Because suppose the ballot arrive 15 days after the election. Is there a
10
time
days.
frame?
You have 10 days.
Okay, good.
10
10
days
days.
only after
10
the
days.
10
Right.
days, good. So the audience is clear
Correct. 10
that you
days
have
after.
up to 10 days after the election. So but any ballot that is arrive after day 11 or after day
Correct.
10, arrive at 11 to 12 days after will not be counted.
Correct.
Okay,
All right.
but
Right.
preserved.
It's preserved for 2 years.
Okay. All right. Supervisor Fox, anything else that you think is important to say to voters this evening?
Well, I just like to thank all the agencies that worked with us and the voters that came out and participated, all the election officials that we hire, and all the media that covered all the events that we had. I know we had to make a last-minute change with St. Joseph a day before because Central High School told us that the AC is not working, and we want to make sure election officials and the voters are comfortable when they're coming in. We do exit surveys, so we encourage the folks, if you miss the survey, you can still go online and do the exit survey. So I thank you and thank Channel 12 all the time for embedded with us and providing the information to the public.
All right.
And
Thank you so much.
for joining us.
Thank you.
Usie?
Yeah, and I think at least I'm appreciative that we have the opportunity to have the supervisor of elections join us. And it wasn't brief, it was in depth.
Yes.
And I think the subject matter information that's been shared with the viewing public and the public at large and in general is very important.
Yes.
And as I told the supervisor, I am not questioning the cost for the election system to conduct these party primaries. What I'm questioning is the cost to the government.
Yes. 275.
The
So
275 and 250, and so we will probably hear from your next guest how much of a savings that we
our next guest.
our next guest how much of a savings we may be having,
Uh-huh.
and whether or not they might be able to return some of that to the coffers of the government of the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Burke.
Good evening, Marcellina, and good evening, Usie. That's how I gonna call you.
You can call me whatever the only thing is what I respond to. But
That's true.
call me whatever you want. Yes.
Mr. Richards and Ms. Ventura-Douglas.
Joining
Yes.
us right now is the Democratic State Chair, Ms. Carol Burke. How are you this evening?
Tired, but so encouraged.
Okay.
So encouraged.
Good. Now, we were talking about the cost of the primary, so we're just gonna jump right into it.
Hold up your mic.
Whether or not Usie and I were having the discussion as to whether or not, because taxpayer dollars went towards putting on the Democratic primary, whether or not it should have been an open primary for the Virgin Islands. Response, your response.
So
to that.
funny that Mr. Richards, who he's not affiliated with any party whatsoever, is so concerned.
What?
I accept the ICM. That when last you guys had an election? When last have the ICM party vetted candidates to come and participate in Virgin Islands elections? And the fact that public funds are utilized for primary election, it's not for the Democratic primary election per se. It's for any primary election. It just happened that the Democratic Party, is the only party that has a primary election.
Mhm.
So tell me if Democrats are not taxpayers too.
Well, I
If
want
may,
to go ahead.
I
I was
I
gonna.
think you misunderstood Marcellina's inquiry.
Okay.
I'm still ICM, and I quite familiar with the subject matter of political party primaries, which is actually a nomination process. The question that Ms. Ventura Douglas was asking, and this happened in a number of jurisdictions in the states, that whether or not they should have open primary. An open primary, let's say in the state of Georgia, if you go up and you're a registered voter, you could go there, and so she's asking, what is your feeling as the state chair of the party about open primaries, given the fact since the government of the Virgin Islands is financing primaries, whether or not it's just Democrats or whether or not it's Democrats, Republican, ICMs?
As state chair and having fielded the question amongst the members,
Mhm.
we enjoy having a close primary.
Okay.
And that's basically the position of the party.
Now, if I may, Marcellina, I did have a couple of questions that I wanted to share with you to see if you might be able to help our viewers and listeners out. Prior to the conduct of the Democratic Party primary by the election system of the Virgin Islands, you had, on behalf of the Territorial Committee, had made an announcement about a process that you all had put in place for individuals to be, if I hope I use the term correctly, certified as qualified candidates by the party to appear on the ballot. Could you just tell us what that process is, what it meant, and so that those of us, whether we're Democrats or not, have an understanding from the state chair about the process and what was it is intended to achieve?
So honestly, the 2024 ruling by Judge Molloy was the impetus for that. We as party leaders, and I've been in a leadership role with this party well over 20 years. And we knew that what we were doing just didn't feel right. And we knew from our affiliation with the National Party that it wasn't right. And we did our research as well, and we realized that most of the states do certify their candidates, and they do set standards by which they're required to meet. And you know, most of the standards, which was 4 of them that we established, all of our candidates, for the most part, met them, because 2 of the 4 was already in place. We've never just not put a plan together. This is the first time we decided to sit down, put a plan together, and put an infrastructure in place to make sure that the standards were met and certain other requirements were met by candidates before we were able to certify them to the supervisor of elections.
Is it possible you could share the 4 standards with us?
Sure, you're really testing my memory.
No,
Anyway,
I don't know, because before you say respond, I'm asking that because we hear all these different things in public forums, whether it's talk show, people on the street, like they say you all have a loyalty statement that candidates. I don't know, but that's what they're saying. So if you could just tell us what the standards are. Yeah, I think it's important.
I know, right off the top of my head, I could remember. I can tell you what 3 of them are. In good standing. A member in good standing, meaning that you pay your membership dues, that you don't have any outstanding.
Miss Burke, I do want to interrupt you right now because we do have some early voting numbers that have come in, and we'll come back to you. Okay. Now we do have some numbers now for the delegate to the House of Representatives. We have Janelle Sorrow with 3,548 votes. Delia Smith with 2,141 votes. Terry Helenese with 556 votes. Emmett Hansen, 356, a total of 15 write-ins for a total votes cast of 6,616. In the governor and lieutenant governor race, we have Stacey Plaskett and Milton Potter with 3,169 votes. Tregenza Roach and Nova Francis with 2,253. Donna Fred Gregory and Rodney Moorhead with 1,393, and a total of 20 write-ins for a total votes cast of 6,835. For the legislature of the Virgin Islands in the St. Croix district, we have Kurt Viale with 2,495, Kenneth Gittins with 1,929, Clifford Joseph with 1,735, Nemi Williams Jackson with 1,560, Lisa J. Charles with 1,444, Hubert L. Frederick with 1,434, Jose Bese Gonzalez, 1,141, Linda Nikki Brooks, 1,066, Dwight M. Cartier, 460, Omar B.U. Henry, 359, a total number of write-ins at 92, for a total votes cast of 13,715. In the St. Thomas St. John district, We have Avery L. Lewis with 2,053 votes. Marvin Blyden, 1,696. Carla J. Joseph, 1,604. Rudell Hodge Jr., 1,135. Chanel Fina Francis, 1,104. Ray Popa Fonseca, 1,059. Joel S. Brown Connors, 1,022. Peter Bailey, 989. Kashif Hamilton, 959. Mayard May Leader, 900. Lawrence Larry Busholti, 795. Michael Smith, 688. Total number of write-ins, 575, for total votes cast of 14,579. For the Board of Education in the St. Croix District, Winona Hendricks, 1,254. Terrence T. Joseph, 1,252. Christopher Jacobs Jr., 891. Mojaniah Mo Dennis, 857. For write-in totals, 18, for a total votes cast of 4,272. In the St. Thomas St. John District, Judy Gomez with 1,710. Ara C. Lockhart, 1,257. Devontae Xavier, 1,007 votes. And Michelle Cawthron, 380. For total write-ins, 29. For total votes cast, 4,383. And lastly, Board of Elections in the St. Thomas St. John District, Kevin Rodriguez, 1,301. Barbara Peterson, 1,293. And Tanya Springett, 1,231. 55 write-in totals for a total number of votes cast of 3,880.
And that's a very interesting numbers. And the one point I think you in case they missed it, you are sharing for the viewers and those that are listening, early voting numbers.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with votes that was cast today, October 1st, Saturday. These are the numbers.
August 1st.
That individuals, I'm sorry, what I said?
You said October.
October? Having a senior moment. Today, August 1st,
Yes.
Saturday primary elections. And so I think that we would go back over and share these numbers again, but I think we should provide the opportunity, if it's okay with you, for
Yes.
the state chair to was sharing with us the four, you said you remember three?
Yeah, I remember three.
You could share the three of them with us, and then I only had one more follow-up question.
No worries.
All right.
Yeah, and then the other one, outside of a member in good standing, the other one is the loyalty pledge that you alluded to, Mr. Richards. And that basically says that once you come out of the primary election, you participate in a coordinated campaign that is spearheaded by the party. That's something that we did before, and some of them have signed that pledge before. And then finally, there was a filing fee, a nominal filing fee, to be able to run under the party's banner.
Yeah, and the one that I had some interest in, because you hear people say things, and I respond and I say to them, I really can't speak of it because I don't know, and I'm not going to speak of something that I can't speak of intelligently. On the one with the loyalty pledge.
Well, when we speak about the loyalty pledge, I just want to take a look at the numbers that we have here on the screen. We have Janelle Quesaro, 3,548, reminding voters these are the early voting numbers that we're seeing right now. Delia Smith, 2,141, Terry Helenese, 556, and Emmett Hansen, 356. Now, all four of these candidates, Ms. Burke, you're saying took the loyalty pledge.
Yes, they did.
Okay. So if Ms. Saro continues to lead the race, what you're saying to us this evening is that the other three candidates would have to, kind of throw their support behind Ms. Saro. Is that what you're telling us?
No, they're not the nominee. She will be the nominee.
Okay.
Only the people that come out of the primary election and move on to the general election are compelled to proceed by upholding the loyalty pledge, because they're not nominees.
And I'm glad that Marcellina ask the question because that's where I was getting to. And so this is one final example on the loyalty pledge. You have 3 gubernatorial teams for candidates. Only one will be declared a winner this evening, even if they win by 1 vote. The loyalty pledge does not mandate or require that the team that finished second and the team that finished third must support the team that comes out with a nomination. That's not part of the loyalty pledge.
No.
And so whether you finish second or third, you could decide that as losing the Democratic primary, that those teams can go out and encourage their supporters to back a gubernatorial candidate that is non-Democrat, because all the rest of them are independents, against the Democratic nominee. I'm just asking
No.
from that
It's
concept.
a good question, Mr.
Yeah.
Richard.
All right.
Because that's what we're doing right now. They don't have to. They don't. They're not the nominee. If they won't be the nominee, if they're not declared winners tonight. But we are unifying our party. They're still members in good standing, and they still were candidates at some point. So we expect that they will remain. They will remain very much supportive of the candidates and the ticket going forward.
Okay, so it's expectations, but not part of the loyalty pledge.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you kindly. And I appreciate your responses.
Now, Ms. Berg, I want to ask you, what issues do you think ultimately drove some Democratic voters in this election? We see public safety, healthcare, economy, government accountability. All of these things were on the ballot today. What do you think voters really came out there looking to cast their support behind?
Well, overall, I think we have it's fair to say that there were approximately 10,000 people come out to vote during the primary election, right? That's more people than voted in the last gubernatorial election, in a primary election.
Yeah.
And I really believe crime was one of them. The state of the economy. And in particular, I know for St. Croix, because I talked to a lot of people, they just felt that the cost affordability was on the ballot. The cost of food, gas, everything, taking their children to daycare, and so on and so forth. And those things drove a lot of the older folks, 45 and older, to go out full force to the ballot, to the polls.
To the polls.
Yeah.
I think some of these things are some of the are included in the platform on the Democratic Party's page, part of your platform. So you call for government accountability, healthcare, education, affordable housing, reliable energy, and economic opportunity. Now, those are things that have appeared in Democratic messaging for years. Why should Virgin Islanders believe that, I guess this election will produce different results versus, past elections, especially being that the Democratic Party has, been somewhat controlled much of the governor's office and the Senate for years?
You're asking a very kind of difficult question, Marcellina. Yeah, because
Difficult, you say.
there's a lot of speculation in elections, right? And the voters don't know for sure, but based on the candidates that, for the most part, and I'm speaking to my Democratic Party candidates, all of them have already participated in public service, and they all have experience and records. And I know that when we speak about government accountability, people want the government to run differently. The people want the government to put a structure in place where accountability truly matters. And when you don't perform, you no longer have a job. I think that's the kind of change. It may be drastic because I don't know that anybody gets fired from the government. And if they do, it's few and far between.
And this is something that the Democratic Party internally needs to start, I guess, kind of looking at when it comes to, because Democrats have, been the dominant party in the Virgin Islands for a number of years. So Are you saying that the Democratic Party is going to start seeing somewhat of a shift in holding accountability internally with some of the candidates that they have put forward to lead government?
I'm glad you asked that question, because that's exactly my vision as a chairperson. We're going to be strong on the issues. We're going to be strong on carrying forward what the constituencies, what is important to our constituents across the board and in the districts. And we're going to advance them, whether it's to the legislature or to whoever the new governor is. Those things will be heard coming from the Democrat representing the areas across the territory.
Looking forward now to the general election, now you're speaking to the entire territory, to all of those registered voters. After with the Democratic Party being the dominant governing party, what major problem, I guess, facing the Virgin Islands do you think Democrats can point to and say, we solved this, and this is why you should vote for us?
Coming up in the general election?
Yes.
There's a number of things that Governor Bryan has championed. I don't think that he's been credited enough. And I don't think that because of the time and the lapse in time, right, that ever since COVID and having to deal with a number of disaster recovery projects, perhaps the work didn't complete fast enough, but they're very much well on the way. And whoever the next governor is, and certainly it is my belief that he'll be a Democrat, that person will step into his shoes and complete all of those jobs, all of the projects, the disaster recovery projects, including the houses that still ain't finished. And yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, but that kind of those kind of things that continue to be lagging are what we're going to be pushing as a party.
Okay.
Did you miss the question that Marcellina asked? The question was, and you...
It looked like your ears are better than mine.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
One thing you can't speak well if you're not a good listener. The question was, is there anything that you can point to? Because you said you first begin to answer her question by saying there was a number of things that this administration has been able to accomplish. And the inquiry was about, if you could just share a couple of those things in your position. A number could be 2, 3, something that you've considered as accomplishments from the administration.
Mr. Richards, like you, I live here, right?
Yeah.
When the power goes out, I feel it just like you. And the same issues that you are feeling, I feel them. And so, yeah, the state of education in the Virgin Islands.
Accomplishments, you say? No, that's what she asked about.
I'm looking at the process.
Okay.
And that's why I deliberately couldn't and didn't answer completely.
Okay. Now I'm sorry.
Not that
now I
was-
understand you clearly. That
thank you very much.
intentionally pushed the question to the side.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I think the viewers were just trying to follow along.
And you should know how to do that because you do it too.
I
That's
probably,
what you notice.
no, I pay attention.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Sorry.
Miss
She
Bird,
has another
I'm gonna allow you to get away from the
From the inquiries.
from the hot seat right now, and give your final words to residents of the Virgin Islands this evening, specifically your Democrats, as you guys kind of move on and we wait for the results to come in.
Well, it's sitting all hot, but yeah, that question was a loaded one. As you well know, the governor is a titular head of the party. But notwithstanding that, then we believe, as a party who is in the process of modernizing, that we are in the purposes of also shepherding in a new generation of leadership. We've seen a number of new faces coming to this primary election, the 2026 primary election, and it's not easy to offer yourself for office, but that's something that this party prides itself in. We pride ourselves in making sure that we provide the opportunity for individuals who have that interest to be trained, to give them a chance to understand what it feels like to put a campaign together and check all the boxes that will make them a viable candidate. We're proud of all of our candidates today. And we wish all of them success. Some of them will not make it through, but we're not going to stop there. We'll still be wanting them and having them around. Good luck to all of them nonetheless, and thank to both of you for having me this evening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Burke. We appreciate you coming and sitting down with us. And all of our questions were fair questions. I just want to put that on the record.
And we want to remind you that the original Democrats, the difference between the donkey Democrats and Martin Pestle Democrats.
That's for another show.
Another show.
That's for another show. I got a history
Next
lesson
time.
a bit thing. That's for another thing.
Another
But
time,
Ms. Burke,
we got on that road.
we want to thank you
All
so
right.
much again, Ms. Burke, for coming in and
And
for
thank you.
joining us. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I want to kind of go back to the early voting numbers that we've seen, just to remind the voting public, to remind the listening public, actually. We have for the governor and lieutenant governor race, Stacey Plaskett and Milton Potter right now with 3,169. Tregenza Roach and Novo Francis, 2,253. Donna Fred Gregory and Rodney Moorhead, 1,393. In the delegate to Congress race, we have Janelle K. Sorrow with 3,548. Delia Smith, 2,141. Terry Helenese, 556. Emmett Hansen, 356. For the Legislature of the Virgin Islands in the St. Croix District, Kurt Viale, 2,495. Kenneth Kenny Gittins, 1,929. Clifford Joseph, 1,735. Nemi Williams Jackson, 1,560. Lisa J. Charles, 1,444. Hubert Frederick, 1,434. Jose Bese Gonzalez, 1,141. Rounding out the top 7, we have Linda Nikki Brooks with 1,066. Dwight M. Cartier with 460. And Omar B.U. Henry with 359 votes. In the St. Thomas St. John District, we have Avery Lewis with 2,053 votes. Marvin Blyden, 1,696. Carla Joseph, 1,604. Rudell Hodge Jr., 1,135. Chanel Fina Francis, 1,104. Ray Popa Fonseca, 1,059. And rounding out the top 7, Joel S. Brown Connors with 1,022. We have Peter Bailey with 989, Kashif Hamilton 959, and Mayard Mayleader with 900 votes. But these are these are the early voting numbers. My apologies. Usie?
Yeah, very, very interesting. I think in the discussion that we were having, and unfortunately, I don't know if we might be able to get that assistance from the election system, whether or not for the territorial races.
Yes.
In particular, the gubernatorial race and the delegate to Congress race, a breakdown of
Precincts.
no votes cast in the gubernatorial race by district,
Yes.
political district.
Okay.
Like, what did the race look like in St. Croix district for the gubernatorial candidates and for the delegate to Congress candidates? What was the results of the votes in the St. Thomas St. John district, particularly since there's been a lot of discussion about polls. And then we also had some discussion in regards to the presentation of WTJX with the forums, the gubernatorial forums. You had the delegate to Congress forums, you had a lieutenant governor's forum. All 3 of them were separate.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting in regards to that particular point. But the other last comment that I would make, you and I did agree that in the senatorial races, we expect that the
Incumbents.
4 incumbents will make it out of the primary. The St. Thomas St. John district, I was in fact unsure whether or not one of their incumbents will be in the top 4, and that result shows with Senator Ray Fonseca. Is it Ray?
Yes.
Ray Fonseca not being in the top four. I think he's somewhere down the line in regards to the results for senator in that particular district. I don't have that in front of me. I do. So he might be 6th, and the 7th person is Joel S. Brown Connors.
Yes.
And so that's interesting. But in the district of St. Croix, you can see that the candidates was able to hold true where the same issue occurs. Incumbents in the top 3 spot, and then incumbent Senator Hubert Fredericks has dropped down in
some.
regards
Yes.
As an incumbent.
Yeah.
And when you come out the primary in 5, 6, and 7, then you go, remember, I tell folks, and I'm glad the stage chair is gone already. I tell folks all the time, there's a difference between a donkey race and a horse race.
And a horse race. Well.
So tonight the donkey race got done.
Uh-huh.
And after that is over, you enter into a horse race where you have strong, independent, no party candidates that are coming in a general election. And so sometime individual may finish first, second, and third in a primary, and she's not alive today, but you can't tell Senator Alicia Chucky Hansen that she ain't gonna come first after I am done with our primary, that I can't finish first or second.
Yes.
And so this will be the interesting part of the campaign that we'll be looking forward to.
Definitely. Now, looking at the gubernatorial standings, I want to kind of go back to the earlier conversation that we were having before the state chair came. We were talking about endorsements and whether or not, that hurt or helped candidates in any way. We were speaking about the Roach Francis team and whether or not, the governor stating he sees this team as a continuation of the current administration. Right now we have Plaskett and Potter leading in the numbers with the early voting numbers right now. And the Plaskett Potter team got some very big endorsements, most notably that coming from the former Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. Numerous U.S. representatives, including Representative Jasmine Crockett, who came to the territory, was both on St. Thomas and on St. Croix. Representative James Clyburn out of South Carolina, Richard Neal out of Massachusetts, Sidney Kamlager Dove out of California. I mean, the list kind of goes on. As you had former Representative Marcia Fudge out of Ohio, who also served as the U.S. Secretary for HUD, as well to New York billionaire Michael Bloomberg, former New York mayor. A lot of these, very big names, on the mainland endorsing the Plaskett Potter team. Do you think that played a role in the numbers that we're seeing, this evening?
It's difficult to say whether or not it plays a role, but it is not difficult to say that it's important to be acknowledged and recognized in regards to the endorsement that comes out. And I think I've listened throughout the campaign period from different talk shows, different commentaries in various events, individual ones. Say, let's start first with Delegate Plaskett, the candidate for governor. So why do you think that it's important that that at least people who live here ain't got nothing to do with we are endorsing you? And I said to myself, when you make that kind of comment, at least if you're sharing it with me, I'm asking you the question. I said, you're moving yourself beyond logic. There's 365 days in a year. The delegate has been in Congress, let's say 13 years. If you have 365 days in a year, if the delegate then involved 965 days out of that 365 days in a year, she die a lot. And that sounds like too much. And so you're saying that she's outside of the Virgin Islands, working with these people outside of the Virgin Islands over 300 days a year for 13 years, and she has not been able to build relationship and draw friendship, which are professional and engaging based on those experiences that she's been out there for all those periods of time of 300 days a year for 13 years, I would be upset and embarrassed to hear that you there up there 13 years, and each one and then 13 years, 300 days in each year, and nobody you've been working with up there all those time think that you are enough pedigree or you are enough of an elected individual to endorse and support. And then I will swing the what do you call the little thing, the pendulum around.
The pendulum, yes.
And let's start with
Lieutenant Governor?
No, I come save him for last. You have former Senator
Donna Fred Gregory.
Donna Fred Gregory, who hosted Nobel, National Organization of Black Elected Women, hosted this group in the capital in St. Thomas, is a member of this group. You're saying that you haven't established any relationship with it, and this is not just Black elected legislators, no, this is Black elected women, mayors, different positions that they're elected, that there's nobody in Nobel that you thought or would have been willing to provide a support of public endorsement to your professionalism, your character, and they perceive interest in your ability to do the job of the governor. We could switch over to Lieutenant Governor Roach, who I think I heard someone saying that on a number of occasions that both of them, I was out of the territory the same time. But I also heard you reported on that the Lieutenant Governor is outside of the territory attending a National Association of
Insurance Commissioners.
Insurance Commissioners. And I think I also heard you saying that he may have been elected to some executive position in the Insurance Commissioners Association. So you're telling me that nobody that's sitting in an Insurance Commissioners Association feel you worthy enough that elected and vote for you to be part of the executive committee, if they don't feel you worthy, that you don't feel them worthy enough to ask of their support and their endorsement for you running for public office for governor. And so and you go down the same way back to Donna Fred Gregory, who has served, quote unquote, because I was an elected member of the executive committee of the National Conference of State Legislature, of which she pronounced some time ago that she was also elected to this executive committee. No one on that executive committee that you have some established relationship that would be able to endorse you. So why complain about the strategy that the delegate decide to share with our community, that these people endorse me running for governor, and if you haven't asked nobody to endorse you, or if anybody don't want to endorse you, that should not be the fault of the delegate. No, I mean that she saw that fitting, and she's not the only one. We had delegate before Delegate Plaskett, Delegate Christian
Donna Christian. She endorsed the Roach Francis team.
Yes, but when she ran for governor, she made a conscious decision not to solicit the support of anyone from outside of the territory endorsing her, because she was a big wig in the Congressional Black Caucus. She was a big wig in the National Democratic Party. She was a state chair after being in Congress. So those kind of things those are the decisions of the candidate. Whether or not is impactful leaves a different story.
Yes.
But the point is that my understanding of the delegate endorsement was to paint a picture of the ability for her to be able to have worked with people, and people who she have worked with have faith in her capacity to do the job.
I don't want our viewers to get the impression that the other teams did not get any endorsements whatsoever. No, Delegate Plaskett did, in fact, her endorsements did surpass those of the other two teams. Fred Gregory and Rodney Moorhead did get endorsements from former Senate President Sean Michael Malone, as well as Jim Hurd, former U.S. Attorney for the Virgin Islands as well too. So they did get some. There were endorsements, but the reason I know our conversation definitely stemmed from the fact that the delegate did amass a large number of endorsements, and I want to say, it's. I think this is the most endorsements that I've personally seen that I can recollect a gubernatorial candidate collecting.
I've been around a little longer than you, and yes, this is one of the most. I think what I was addressing was the subject matter of individuals taking a particular position and being critical of endorsements from individuals who live outside of the Virgin Islands
Yes.
and in their minds have nothing to do with the Virgin Islands. And I think that the point that was being missed is that they wasn't endorsing the Virgin Islands. They were providing an endorsement of someone that they have worked with
Yes.
over this extended period of time. And she saw it fit to utilize that strategy, and whether or not it garnered any particular number of votes, I think is of no moment.
Okay.
What is of the moment is that to build her reputation of being not only capable of doing the job, but to also leave the public impression that she will have a long reach hand of
Yes.
support outside of the territory in doing the job if elected.
Okay. All right. Now, before we continue this conversation, I do want to welcome Board Chairman, Mr. Raymond Williams. How are you this evening, Mr. Williams?
Tired. Good evening. It's been a long day traveling from this morning, St. John, visiting both vote centers on St. John, coming back over to St. Thomas, doing all three there, and then coming to St. Croix and doing the same. So it's been a long day, but I think that I want to congratulate the winners. I want to also
Don't get us in trouble. You're saying the winners.
The winners.
We have
the unofficial.
we
We
have-
have
unofficial.
voting numbers.
We haven't had we only talk about early voting. That's the only number.
Unless you have
Yes.
some numbers, some new numbers for us.
Yes.
well, I'm not going to share numbers because
Okay.
until the staff completes the tabulations. You know, and I just want to note that we still have walk-ins account, we have mail-in ballots account, and stuff like that. That process will begin on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, before we discuss some of the results or anything like that, and what we've seen so far, how would you assess the overall performance for the Board of Elections during this election cycle?
So functionally, we did our jobs.
Okay.
It's been a tough 2-year road ride with the addition of new members. But again, at the end of the day, I think that as people phase in, and some of us who will be phasing out, there'll always be room for change. There'll always be room for improvement. So I think that I just want to say that we are a working group of individuals, different opinions, but at the end of the day, we walk out of the room with a collective consensus of decisions.
Yeah. Now, you are not seeking re-election, so is this right now your last Democratic primary?
This is my last, primary, yes.
Yes. Okay.
As a board
Okay.
member, yes.
So looking back on it, just the overall day, you said you started off in St. John. Was there any nostalgia? Was there any a tip you had off as you walked through, the voting centers and made your way back over to St. Croix?
I bottom line, I'll miss it. Let's go there because this is 24 years of membership on the board. I'll definitely miss it, but it was good to see. One of the things I saw for certain was the movement of young people that were out canvassing, young people that were out taking part in this overall process.
Mr. Richards?
Oh, thank you. I was allowing you to grill the chair. I
have my, I always have my questions prepared,
Yes,
but
yeah,
I want to give him some reprieve. Kept him on a roller coaster.
Yeah, one of the subject matters that we touched on in regards to the election system, and we spoke with on the supervisor, and she kicked that ball back to us and says that's something that the board should discuss. Is our concerns that we share with the supervisor was about the cost of primaries and the limited amount of individuals that are participating. You have, I believe, they said some 37,000 registered Democrats. And we've just completed a process that ended this evening. And you had a number of persons that participated via absentee ballot that probably won't add up to no more than 10,000.
Thus far, the numbers look like 1/3
Mhm.
of registered Democrats would have participated in the primary
And
process.
so the question that at least I asked of her, and Marcellina and I discussed this also with her, was so does the board have an intent to have a firm position about moving out of the business of having the government conduct and pay for party primaries? I know you're a staunch Democrat, but I suspect you're also the taxpayer, and we were concerned about what you think the board would consider.
So it's not an issue of the board or the election system. If you think back, when the legislation was passed, basically saying that the parties, quote unquote, are responsible for their own selection process, quote unquote, primary. Several years ago, the Democratic Party challenged that in court. The judge, I think it was Judge Brady at the time, basically said, if the legislature funds it, your responsibility is to carry it out. So it's not a matter, I think, that's before the board or the office of the supervisor. The legislature sees it fit to fund it, the process takes place.
Yeah, well, just for clarity, I was the sponsor of the legislation. The question then is, when the board discovered that a ruling was made at the Superior Court level by Judge Brady, as you said, have the board then follow up with the legislature and tell them, well, they need to review and make these possible changes based on the ruling of the judge so that the intent can be carried out? Because I sure that I was out the legislature by then.
Not to my.
The board never follow up.
No, we never follow through on saying that. But what I would say relative to legislation and amending Title 18, we have spent a phenomenal amount of time, maybe back in 2014 and coming forward, in working with several senators in literally page by page going through Title 18 and looking at all the pieces that needed to be amended, a process that probably lasted us about 4 or 5 months. It was Senator Gittins, Noel Francis, it was Tregenza Roach, Nellie O'Reilly, to name a few of the senators that participated in that process over that extended period of time. And when those pieces were proffered, I think the only thing the legislature acted on was to increase the salaries of election day officials. Simple things like technical amendments, the word joint boards, simple things like that never got touched.
Well, I'm going to turn it back to Marcellina and be nice with this last comment. And my commentary is that I have a clear impression that the members of the party are afraid of and don't trust each other. That's why they cannot agree to the conduct of a party nomination process through convention and caucuses, as was done in the past during the time when your late father was a senator. They caucused, they had conventions, and the government did not pay for primary elections for political parties. And that's the lack of trust. So when the issue comes up, what the legislature makes sure it does, appropriate the money to the election system so that you don't have any excuse to meet the mandates, as the code said. They give you the money, so you all have to do it.
Correct. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. I mean, just in this process that we just went through today, the appropriations for budgeted appropriations for the primary just took place recently. I mean, we have asked the legislature to make the appropriations because you recognize that the primary elections, so-called primary elections, takes place in the current fiscal year. The general election takes place in the ensuing fiscal year.
Yep.
So we've always asked that make one appropriation for both, or specifically towards a general.
No, the board recently adopted a new audit process procedure ahead of the primary, and you've since been directed to kind of develop a permanent audit policy as well too. What lessons from this election do you think will shape that long-term policy? And do you anticipate the board possibly expanding the scope for future audits, if anything?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the board is going to be meeting on Tuesday in a working session to further develop what that process would look like. We are going to perform an audit of the primary election on August 6th. That process for this primary entails making a random selection of one voting DS200 that was utilized at early voting, one that was utilized today on primary day. Those ballots will be removed from the ballot box, hand counted, and fed into an independent DS200 to ensure that the information, the numbers, the votes cast are accurate.
Well, I do want to take a shift gears a little bit because we do have some numbers again from election dates from today. So in the delegate to the House of Representatives, we have Janelle Sorrow with 1,365 leading today. Delia Smith, 866. Terry Helenese, 243. Emmett Hansen, 137. We have 7 write-ins and total votes cast in that race, 2,618. For the governor and lieutenant governor race, we have Stacey Plaskett and Milton Potter with 1,324. Tregenza Roach and Novo Francis Jr. with 801. Donna Fred Gregory and Rodney Moorhead, 582. 19 write-in totals for a total number of votes cast with 2,726. For the legislature of the Virgin Islands, right now the numbers, we have Kurt Viale, 1,044, Kenneth Kenny Gittins, 748, Clifford Joseph, 710, Nemi Williams Jackson, 640, Lisa J. Charles, 582, Hubert Frederick, 579, Jose Bese Gonzalez, 566, Linda Nikki Brooks, 482, Dwight M. Cartier, 165. Omar B. U. Henry, 156. 53 write-in totals for total votes cast for 5,725. For the legislature in the Virgin Islands in the St. Thomas St. John District, Avery Lewis with 671 votes. Marvin Blyden, 632. Carla Joseph, 598. Chanel Fina Francis, 474. Rudel Hodge Jr., 452. Ray Popa Fonseca, 427. Peter Bailey, 400. Mayard May Leader, 379. Joel S. Brown Connors, 371. Kashif Hamilton, 368. Michael Smith, 303. Lawrence Larry Busholti, 292. We have 209 write-ins and total votes cast, 5,578. For the Board of Education, Terrence T. Joseph with 515, Winona Hendricks, 403, Christopher Jacobs Jr., 332, Mojanaya Mo Dennis, 326, 12 write-in totals for 1,588 total votes cast. In the Board of Education for the St. Thomas St. John District, Judy Gomez with 593, Ara C. Lockhart with 414, Devontae Xavier, 382, Michelle Cawthron, 177, 18 write-in totals, and 1,584 total votes cast. For the Board of Elections in the St. Thomas St. John District, Atanya Springett, 460, Kevin Rodriguez, 458, and Barbara Peterson, 457. 35 write-in totals for 1,410 votes cast in total. I do want to note that in the St. Croix district, There was only one candidate for the Board of Elections, and that was Shamari Haynes, who automatically advanced to the general elections
On behalf of the Democratic Party.
on behalf of the Democratic Party.
And I think one of the things that you definitely want to make sure that the viewers and listening audience understand is the fact that the numbers that you just shared for votes cast today, primary day, those are the only numbers that she just shared. So that does not include the cumulative numbers of the early voting. And so to date, and they're not the final numbers. These are some of the numbers of votes cast today. And I remember the month, it's August 1st.
It is August 1st, 2026.
Votes cast on this day of August 1st.
Yes. So, Mr. Williams, kind of getting these numbers out and stuff, walk us through, I guess, for the viewers and for the listeners as well, to, I guess, kind of what the atmosphere is like in trying to hurry up and get these numbers out.
So, over the years, we've tried to improve on the process. Usie can speak to it because he's been around a lot longer. Very much so gone are the days where we would hold up a piece of paper and tally off of a piece of paper, to the point now where, as you saw tonight, early votes, we started the process, I believe, roughly at about 7:30. And by the time we're finished with those numbers, probably was closer within 45 minutes, if that long.
Okay.
Because the process has improved so dramatically. I think part of it too is that you have consensus in what you do. One of the things that we've struggled with, I think, in the past over time, and we've improved on, is who gets what results first. Because there for quite a period of time, results were being released, partially results were being released. And by the time one media got it versus the other, one media was reporting a set of numbers, another a different set of numbers. So it kind of created chaos and confusion.
Yeah.
But I think we're at the place now that
it's a bit more streamlined.
Streamline the information, and so it goes out one time.
And I think it's so streamlined that we've already gotten some combined numbers with early voting and voting for today. So in for governor and lieutenant governor, we have in these combined numbers now with early voting and for today, Stacey Plaskett and Milton Potter with 4,493, Tregenza Roach and Novo Francis 3,054, Donna Fred Gregory and Rodney Moorhead 1,975, 39 write-in totals, total votes cast 9,561. For the delegate to the House of Representatives, Janelle Sorrow with 4,913, Delia Smith 3,007, Terry Helenese 799, Emmett Hansen 493, 22 write-in totals, and total votes cast 9,234. For the legislature of the Virgin Islands, in the St. Croix district, Kurt Viale 3,539, Kenneth Kenny Gittins 2,677, Clifford Joseph 2,445, Nemi Williams Jackson 2,200, Lisa J. Charles 2,026. We are in the year of 2026. Hubert Frederick 2,013, Jose Bese Gonzalez 1,707, Linda Nikki Brooks 1,548, Dwight Cartier 625, Omar B.U. Henry 515, 145 write-in totals, and total votes cast 19,440. In the St. Thomas St. John district, leading the race is Avery Lewis 2,724, Marvin Blyden 2,328, Carla Joseph 2,202, Rudel Hodge Jr. 1,587, Chanel Fina Francis 1,578, Ray Popa Fonseca 1,486, Joel S. Brown Connors, 1,393. Peter Bailey, 1,389. Kashif Hamilton, 1,327. Mayard Mayleader, 1,279. And Lawrence Larry Busholti, 1,089. Michael Smith, 991. 784 write-in totals for a total votes cast of 20,157. In the Board of Education in the St. Croix District, Terrence T. Joseph with 1,767, Winona Hendricks, 1,657, Christopher Jacobs Jr., 1,223, Mojaniah Mo Dennis, 1,183, 30 write-in totals, and 5,860 total votes cast. For the Board of Education in the St. Thomas St. John District, Judy Gomez, 2,303, Ara C. Lockhart, 1,671, Devontae Xavier, 1,389, Michelle Cawthron, 557, 47 write-in totals for total votes cast of 5,967. The Board of Elections in the St. Thomas St. John District, Kevin Rodriguez with 1,759, Barbara Peterson, 1,750, Atanya Springett, 1,691, 90 write-in totals, and total votes cast, 5,290.
Yes, and I think what we definitely would like to share with the viewing audience is that this seems to represent the unofficial results for primary day election night of August 1st.
Yes.
And I will assume that it also will be incorporating the cumulative numbers of early voting. You have the understanding that these are all now put together?
Yes.
Good. And so we're looking at unofficial results, unofficial in the context that we are now awaiting the
Absentee ballots as well.
the gentleman that we're interviewing,
Yes.
the chairman of the joint boards of elections and the members of the board to conduct the tabulation of absentee ballots. I believe you also have walk-in ballots is what you mentioned.
Correct.
Okay, and Scott, just explain to us outside of the unofficial results, we have votes cast today at the 3 precincts on St. Croix, 3 precincts on St. Thomas, the 3 precincts, 3 voting centers on St. Croix, 3 voting centers on St. Thomas, and the 2 voting centers on St. John. So we have those results in the report given by Marcellina, which is also inclusive of the early voting numbers. And so just tell us what is outstanding that will be added to these unofficial results, if you can.
So my numbers are correct. On St. Croix, we have approximately 270 votes to count for walk-in, mail-in ballots. And in the district of St. Thomas St. John, a little over 300 of those ballots to be counted as well. That process will start on Monday at 1 o'clock in both districts so that we can move towards getting. I just want to also say that I don't have the numbers, the aggregate total numbers of ballots that were requested as walk-in.
Sorry not to interrupt you, but the supervisor did give us the exact numbers.
Okay, you got the numbers?
Earlier, yes.
Okay, so on the bylaw, basically, we have 10 days from which by which to count all those ballots and then to basically certify the election.
Okay. Final words, Mr. Williams. You speak to the voters before we get you out of the hot seat.
Okay, so I think it's imperative that the message be sent clear that your vote makes a difference, your vote matters. You often hear people complaining about everything under the sun throughout our communities. Your vote is your voice. It makes a difference. If you don't participate in the process, you're a part of the problem. So you've got to participate in the process. We looked at the numbers thus far today. I think that we could have seen a whole lot more people coming out to vote. Voter apathy clearly continues to be a part of why people aren't coming out. You know, you hear everything from they don't fix my road or they don't do nothing. And, you know, some people just don't come out to vote. But if you don't vote, you can't get results. So I encourage people to come out and vote. You know, a blank ballot is a vote. You can cast a blank
is a
ballot.
vote, yeah.
That is a vote.
Well,
But come out and vote.
Thank
Make
you.
your voice be heard.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. I appreciate you coming and joining us this evening. We'll see you general election. We'll do this again.
Yes, we will. Thank you guys for having me.
And
All right.
and thank you for sharing and contributing to our discussions.
Yes,
Have a great evening, guys.
you as well.
I have an interesting observation. Just before
Okay.
we went to the chair, we were talking about these quote unquote endorsements.
Mhm.
And unfortunately for you and I, we have our phone on vibrate.
We do.
And so
We-
it appears that I was getting some rebuttal, and some more than likely they misunderstood the commentary that I was making
Mhm.
on the subject matter of endorsement from individuals outside the territory.
Mhm.
And I don't believe that at any time that I was sharing that I was emphasizing that it mattered.
No.
I was making mention of the reasoning behind the utilization of endorsement, but in this case by the delegate, and with the availability of endorsement by others. And so I was corrected that during the time of the gubernatorial campaign of the former delegate
Yes.
to Congress, that she was endorsed by members of the National Democratic Party. I say Hillary and a couple other persons, and the impression that was left with me in the messaging that people here in the Vordenaz was saying, well, we want it and we don't need it. I wasn't interested in whether we wanted it or not. I'm just saying the reasoning how endorsements come about.
Yes.
And I think that point ought to be made clear. And the impression that I had, based on my understanding, is that that the delegate had chose not to use them,
Mhm.
not that she didn't have any.
Yes.
But obviously it appears that she had some, and she used them, and somebody somewhere in some place at some time tell them we don't want to hear about it.
Well,
And I'm sure there are people that were saying the same thing this year also.
I want to remind our viewers and our listeners that we are here live at the Election System Office on St. Croix. So some of the noise that you heard when we were speaking with Mr. Williams, some of that was actually members from the Plasket Fire team celebrating when those numbers came in. So just reminding our viewers and listeners that when you're hearing any background noise and stuff, it's not our guys in the background, making any noise. We're actually here live at the Election System Office on St. Croix. So, eventually, I'm sure we're going to end up probably seeing some candidates coming and
That might
celebrating.
pop in
And they might pop in and join us on the seat. And, we will be nice to them on the seat, Usie.
Yes, but what I was looking at in the numbers, and it was one of the items that we was going to speak about the subject matter of the effectiveness of the forums and debate provided by WTJX and other entities. When you had the WTJX forum with the candidates for delegate, that included candidate Sarro, candidate Smith, Helenice, and Hansen. And this is just my personal opinion about what I observed and listened to. It was clear that candidate Sarro, in my opinion, was firm, clear, understood, and had prepared herself for such a discussion on this forum. And if in fact her presentation and the manner in which she participated at the forum, comparing to the other three challengers, was viewed as firm, knowledgeable, unfettered, for the lack of a better term, that the results that I'm looking at could have been added to by people who are able to look at these type of presentations in an open-minded manner, irrespective of whether or not they have any feeling of loyalty or friendship towards any particular candidate, just look at it. And then I would say the same, which the results are not the same in the gubernatorial. When I look at the gubernatorial debate of you had Lieutenant Governor Roach.
Yes.
You had the gubernatorial candidate delegate Plaskett. You had the former senator and gubernatorial candidate Donna Fred Gregory. In that presentation of that debate forum by WTJX, in my opinion, the person that stood out there and giving a good firm presentation, looked at the camera, was responsive and was directive and spoke knowledgeable on the subject matter was Donna Fred Gregory. I think she had one of the better presentation of all three of them. Now, the presentation may not, based on the results that we see here tonight, have garnered the type of support, but for those people that looked at it and paid attention and look at the manner of just delivery, the lieutenant governor at that point, which was surprising to me, I've never known him to appear uncomfortable and anxious.
Okay.
When you look at the mannerisms of how he folded his hand, his eyes, I think sometimes
That's how it came off to you during that?
Not only me, there was a lot of us. You see that on the TV. When you see the presentation, you go to this, and then you look. It left the impression that there was some uncomfort in the presentation, and the same would have been held true for Delegate Plaskett at a certain point in time, seen unsettled and unnerving in the presentation and the response. But in Fred Gregory, you saw a firm, stable look into the cameras, you speak into the camera, and just the presentation. And so that's just my opinion.
And this is from the debate at WTJX.
The debate.
Yes.
And I'm a planner by profession, and the first rule of planning is observation. So I'm observing the presentation, not only what they said, how they said, the facial gestures and mannerisms that they provide to those of us that are in the public paying attention.
I want to say that I think our debates, and of course I'm going to be biased, but I think our debates was definitely my favorite. I enjoyed all of the forums and the debates that had been put on, and being able to consume all the contents and hearing from the candidates as well too. But I definitely had the most fun at ours.
Yeah, and what is interesting, I don't want the impression to be left that that I didn't look at other forums.
Yes.
Now, I looked at the one of them you mentioned to me that was covered in your news coverage on one of those days. I can't remember the assumed acronym of this group that involved labor unions.
Okay. Yes.
But I was able to view that. I believe that was available on YouTube.
The USVI Area Labor Federation.
Right, who went silent after rebuttals from the Central Labor Council. But I still look at the forum.
Yes.
And the format is different and lend to a different type of interaction and responding. And it should be different because
it should be, yes.
They're speaking about labor issues.
Yes.
The WTJX format would have been much different, though people question of whether that is a debate, but I think people forget that they were being questioned by people involved in covering the news on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
For extended period of times, of which some of the candidates, or most, if not all the candidates, were involved in news media interaction.
And they were asked about their record.
The record.
Yes.
And I think so it gives a different balance. So I wouldn't determine that one is better than the other. It's just two different perspectives.
Definitely.
That you're looking at in these type of debates.
I think one of the things that we definitely saw as well too this election, this primary season, was campaign fundraising. I think that was another thing. I think the Plaskett Potter team definitely outspent the other teams by and far. Outraised both of them.
Outraised.
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 I don't know if yes. Thank you for correcting me. A lot of those donations came from seemingly came from off island as well too. and they received several maximum contributions of $3,500. And I think just kind of going off of, we could not confirm neither the Roche Francis nor the Fred Gregory Moorhead receiving that maximum $3,500 contribution during that reporting period. So, what do you think that the fundraising, the spending, do you think that played any role in the results that we saw tonight?
Oh, definitely.
Mhm.
The fundraising,
Mhm.
the disbursement of the funds for a campaign, I would hope it plays a role because you cannot, in fact, be successful in spreading your message and you have a limited, finite amount of funding to cover today's media platforms. I think that's what you young people call them, platforms.
Yes.
And so whether you go to the print media, you got television, you got radio, you got the online platforms and forums, and then you have the old time ones where people are complaining about the mailers. I had one back in my campaign because back then you just go to the post office and you pay for this postage thing, and then you put that on everything and they try it on everybody that got mailbox. So
I got some mailers. I did get some mailers. Did you get any of this?
You're trying to be nice and put it mildly. I got a whole lot of mailers. I sent directly into. As a matter of fact, today is Saturday, and on my way from doing my daily exercise, I checked the post office, and it still had one coming in for today's date. I don't know. So mailers were coming, but the subject matter that you're raising in regards to contributions speaks two different messages. The first message, I think that's important for us to, at least for me, to share with your viewers and your audience, your ability to solicit, request, and ask for financial contributions to your campaign is vested in the manner and how much your campaign is organized and structured. And then there is some reporting from different sources. It's funny because I don't know if the teams, three gubernatorial teams were running that they didn't realize that they were running for governor until sometime this year. I don't know if that's the case.
Okay.
I know that annually I have an opportunity to attend with former members of state legislators, the National Black Conference of State Legislators. And I've been in the organization. I now attend as a former senator. I've served on the executive committee of that entity for some 10 years. But when I got in my retiree capacity, and me and the old folks who are there, we're having a class reunion. We're not there for all the conferences. I run into a couple of people that work in DC, and at least up to 3 years ago, they run into me and they say, hey, Senator Richards, so you think Stacey's going to win? That's 3 years ago.
That was 3 years ago. Okay.
And then the next year later, and then, so for 3 consecutive years, there are people that I know that have relationships with the National Black Caucus of State Legislators who were former members of NBCSL or members of the House of Representatives that are attending the state legislature things, or members of the corporate roundtable that include every little company you could think of, whether it's AARP, Pfizer, pharmaceuticals, who I know, serving in my capacity with the Health Committee and the Human Services, whether they're Fannie Mae or whoever they are, that they know they don't hear somewhere of this, so they're not asking, they were only asking me because they know I'm from the Virgin Islands, and they figure you should know Stacey Plaskett, and now they've done establish that you think she's going to win.
So are you saying, with those comments now,
yes,
are you saying that the other two teams took too long to essentially put themselves out there to let voters know, hey, I am a viable candidate, take me seriously?
What I'm saying that the other two teams were outworked and less organized
Okay.
and structured to garner the amount of support in such a short period of time in comparison to the amount of time that it appears that at least Plaskett, irrespective of whether or not the party was the running mate, but Plaskett, knowing of her intention and organizing, planning, and preparing. It's just like an old Boy Scout motto is be prepared.
Yes.
And if you're not prepared, then you suffer the consequences of lack of proper preparation.
Yeah. But proper preparation. Oh, I don't remember the P's.
Whatever
Someone with a P's.
I don't want to be dealing with utilizing the colloquial terms.
Yes.
I'm just saying if you lack proper preparation, and so
Yes.
she out prepared them, outworked them in regards to the fundraising. And what is funny to me was the subject matter read in one of our only daily hard copy circulating newspaper that was listing all of the contributors of one candidate. And then when they list the contributions of another candidate, they said they can't tell you the candidate name, or they can't tell you where the donor's name, or they can't say where part the donor come from. So why is it that you're able to go, are you saying it's improper filing?
Yeah.
And so you're able to have all this information, and they should have as a filing document a listing of everybody that contributes in regards to the name and where the entity is from, because all that is part of a form for filing.
Yeah. I want to talk about the rattan poll.
Oh, yes, that's interesting.
The rattan poll, that came out. I think now it had the Plaskett Potter team leading at 57% but they had the Fred Gregory Moorhead team, leading ahead of the Roach Francis. So, those differing. Now, the rattan poll was surveyed by 180 registered Democrats in the St. Croix district from July 17th through the 29th, with a margin of error of, give or take 7.3%. Now, I think some people were saying, there were comments made of not taking the rattan poll seriously, but I think from growing up, just since I've known myself somewhat or been paying attention to politics, the rattan poll has been something that has come out. It's almost somewhat nostalgic at this point as well, too. What do you say to those who would say, not to take the rattan poll seriously?
The rattan poll, and I know the gentleman that has conducted it, has been conducting this poll since 1998. We've had the fortunate opportunity, and the guest that's getting ready to join us, he's had the same opportunity like myself to be candidates when these polls were being conducted.
Yes.
Over the years since 1998, the rattan poll has not been a poll that has been out in left field and far right that we don't expect. Well, let's look at the senatorial races in the district. Although the listing or the order of the top 7 may change based on return polling or whatever, that may vary. But usually the top 7 are there. Now, the big question mark was, I suspect, in the gubernatorial race, where there was some, in fact, projection that Plaskett Potter at first, and with Fred Gregory some percentage points ahead of Roach and Francis. And I know that took the Roach Francis team by surprise and created some upheaval.
Yes.
It didn't finish like that, but it is a poll, and you look at the other races.
Yeah.
All the other races fell in place in regards to order in the delegate to Congress and the Senate.
Well, I want to get our guest.
Well,
I want to get our
Senator.
guest to, this is a perfect place for our guest to jump in. Mr. Neville James, former senator,
The cruncher of
host
numbers.
of the Cruncher of Numbers, the math whiz, host of Analyze This.
Good evening. Glad to be here.
Good evening. We're speaking about the rattan poll this evening, and kind of the reaction to it as well, to, this was something that you spoke about as well, too, on Analyze This.
Yeah, good evening to the audience. And I want to, first of all, commend WTJX. I was watching it, tuned in from 7. Y'all did a great job, so we're good with that. The rattan poll was good, but a little bit misleading from the standpoint that it was all St. Croix, all right? And a couple things jumped out from the rattan poll at me. According to Mr. James, Raymond James, who does the rattan poll, there were a lot of people who actually didn't participate, didn't vote for a candidate in the gubernatorial race and the delegate race. Looking at the numbers that we're seeing here tonight, there was definitely participation. I believe the total number of votes was 9,998 territory-wide, if you include the 7,113 in early voting, and I believe it was 2,884, something like that, on election day. So that was good. Also on St. Croix, which to me was refuted tonight, he had the Fred Gregory Moorhead team
Yes.
leading the Roach Francis team.
Yes.
That's correct.
But that's on
Correct.
St. Croix,
Yeah.
right? So we got to wait now to look at the numbers by district and see how that panned out. I would think that Roach Francis team did much better on St. Thomas than they did on St. Croix.
And that's a good point because earlier, and you said you were listening to us, and I did ask publicly to see that someone from WTJX could run in to get a breakdown.
Yeah, because we got territory and generic numbers. We didn't get-
Generic
Yeah.
we didn't
by
get specific
district
numbers. By district, you
for
need
the
that.
for the gubernatorial race to
You need
really have a clear indication of whether or not the rattan poll was that way up. Because outside of the pollster, there were other persons that was sharing that same sentiment also.
Correct. The senatorial race, looking at it, first of all, Kurt Viale just gets prolific numbers running
Yes.
for Senate.
Yes.
And, for whatever reason, why it didn't translate to the gubernatorial race in 2022, that's history. Also, we saw all four incumbents in both districts made it through to the general election. I believe Senator Fonseca and Senator Fredericks, they finished sixth, somewhere between there.
Somewhere between there.
That's
Yes.
correct. That's
So,
correct.
so we got two aspirants finishing fourth and fifth, but I believe the top three in both districts was VLA, Gittins, Joseph. And in
Gittins.
St. Thomas, it was
Avery
Avery Lewis,
Carla
Marvin
Joseph-
Blyden,
Mar-
and Carla
Carla
Joseph.
Joseph,
So
yes.
that's going to be interesting. But what we're looking forward to now is, and I was talking with the boss about this earlier this week, will the Democratic Party coalesce post-primary? And I could honestly say I really don't know. In theory, you would hope they would, but
So why are you doing that to me? Explain coalesce, because we are here listening. Because I want to believe that was one of the questions that we was asking the state chair. So
Yes.
could you break it down for the audience to
I
make
saw
sure?
that, and she didn't
But
really
help-
want.
help us
So I want to be
coalesce.
more candid tonight,
Yeah.
right? As a former Democrat, right? First of all, numerically speaking, the party is so big, Ms. Ventura-Douglas and Senator Richards, that you're going to have fragmentation within anything that's big, right? I believe what we have, 30,000 registered voters, of which 2/3 are Democrats. So you have that issue there as well. The lieutenant governor, he complimented the governor for 8 years. So he's probably asking himself, like a lot of lieutenant governors did, what do lieutenant governors have to do?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? To be successful when running for governor. You have Senator Francis, who's a prolific vote getter like Senator Viale. From a numerical standpoint, you would think that the ticket would be a numbers grabber. However, I got to talk with the governor. I'm going to be very candid with the governor. And I said, Governor, do you believe the current situation in the Virgin Islands now didn't translate to your endorsements
Yeah.
having that type of effect? Now, I know some people are afraid to ask that question. I enjoy asking that question, being a host
Yeah,
and
I
like
think.
this.
Do you think that sent a message? I mean, the lieutenant governor coming in second, sending a message to the governor that we're not going to put your lieutenant governor forward.
A lot of the things that happened, in particular over the last, I'd say 90 days, could not have helped the lieutenant governor as part of the Brian Roach administration.
Yes.
The WAPA issue on St. Thomas, the HUD devastating blow last week, Monday, just a number of different things. The recovery in general, they probably don't believe they could see things with a naked eye. So,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the next 90 days and analyze this. And you're going to be on with me sometime next week so we could break it down.
At some
And,
point.
we'll see if you want to take off the Constitutional Convention had for a little bit and come on and let me break it down. I got no problem with that. We're good.
Yeah.
But Senator James, one of the things that we had
Neville.
discussed.
Tell me, Neville. First
I'm
name,
sorry,
Neville.
Kai.
We good with that.
We were on here
I know,
telling
I
each
know,
other,
I know.
Marcellina and Usie,
And Usie, yeah.
and then you come in here and drop all this formality. So
I have to look pretty decent. I wasn't even like
No,
this.
you join, you blend
know what I'm
well.
saying?
You blend
But
well.
yeah,
We
yeah.
all going to the same party.
I saw that. Oh, by the way, I drove past the
the headquarters.
Plasket Party headquarters. People are showing up. I'm seeing them walking across the road.
Okay.
You know how people are. They're like winners.
They like winners. Yeah.
So that's what the one I was saying. Me and Marcellina spoke of
Earlier.
earlier that we want you to jump into because I think we went as far back yesterday in our brief discussion about the ability of lieutenant governors running to be elected as governors as successors to the prior
Administration.
administration. I went back as far as Lieutenant Governor Derry Hodge, Usie Richards, Gregory
Today.
Francis,
To date,
and then we right up to today with Lieutenant Governor.
it's not translating to
Lieutenant
victories.
Lieutenant Governor Roach. It's not an easy. It's the
No.
only one that we know was successful. Is that he inherited it because
Top seat. Yeah,
the
man.
top seat person in that case was Governor King, who died in office, and then
But he
Governor Louis finished a term and come back and get two more term on his own, and it's about 10 years.
That's why I say this right all the time when we talk about the governors. If there's one thing that people could say, Wang Louis really stood himself apart from other lieutenant governors was the fact that even though he inherited, due to the untimely passing of Governor Cyril King in January of 1978, he ran back in 78 and won, and then had a whole term to defend in 1982, and he won again. So that is greatness. So you gotta give him credit. No, you mentioned Derek Hodge.
After Farley Hodge administration.
Farley Hodge administration didn't pan out for him in 1994. You mentioned Greg Francis, right?
And,
Well, Greg Francis. No, it was Ken Mapp. Ken Mapp was Schneider's lieutenant governor.
And
He ran for governor in 2010. He lost before he won in 2014. And in that same 2014 year, Greg Francis ran. Didn't pan out for him. So
then you can't skip over our cousin, your first cousin, my second cousin.
Usie Richards.
No.
That's right, Usie Richards. You're right. In 2006.
You forget about Lieutenant Governor Gerard Los James.
Gerard Los James again, correct.
When he divorced from Turnbull, he ran for governor
That's right,
also.
2002. You know, they fell apart during the 99 to 2003 window. He ran as an independent in 2002. Wasn't successful. So I don't know what it is. Maybe we need to really look at, should governor and lieutenant governors run separately? You know, maybe the Constitutional Convention can look at that. Or, here's my suggestion.
Well, we don't know if they're already
Maybe
looking
we
at
should
that.
let the governors run individually. It's the last thing I'm going to say. The governors could run individually. And if the winner of the gubernatorial primary wants to run with one of the candidates who wasn't successful, like what happened with Obama, Biden, stuff like that. Maybe we could go that route. But for whatever reason, it's not translating to wins for lieutenant governor who want to be governor. Randy Lugo, from a delegate standpoint, popular, got blown out.
I want to ask the both of you, what do you both think the Democratic gubernatorial nominee now needs to do immediately tonight, or just in the coming days, to broaden support beyond the Democratic base?
Well, they need to do one thing, and the delegate needs to do something else. They need they need to do what I did when I lost in the primary and my career was ended. They need to accept their loss and gracefully and classy. And then the delegate, more importantly than them, she needs to reach out to them and said, I need you if I want to win. If she really believes, her and her running mate, Senator Potter, believes that, well, I don't need them, or I'm going to wait for them to come to me. That means that the party isn't as valuable as it should be.
I mean, but can we genuinely expect that to happen? I mean, I'm just thinking about the debate. I'm thinking about the criticisms that came from the lieutenant governor to Delegate Plaskett, from former Senator Donna Fred Gregory to Delegate Plaskett. Both of them had criticisms of the delegate. So do we realistically expect them now to come and genuinely put their support behind the candidate.
Lucia, a non-Democrat, what's your take? Because you've been in this arena
I-
about 10 years longer
I
than me.
I was here laughing because I was getting ready to say it's time to flip the pancake. That side of the pancake done cook already, and the other side just bubbling up with it whole ready to be flipped over. The question that I asked myself when Marcellina asked the both of us, that question is, I am scared,
You should be.
confused, and disappointed. We supposedly to have some other people running for governor, lieutenant governor, and I don't know what their perception is of campaign and an election that they believe that for the past, how many, when was filing date? May?
May,
I think so.
second
Yeah,
or
May.
third Tuesday in May. Yeah.
Since May, they don't file to run for governor and lieutenant governor as team that they could sit down May, June, July, first day in August, don't send nothing, ain't got no campaign and watching the winner of a primary snowballing down a hill, gaining momentum and energy, and believe that tomorrow, Sunday the 2nd, after Saturday the 1st is over at midnight, that they now gonna be some big considered challenger campaign and ready. Where are these people?
That's legit.
Yeah.
That's
I
legit.
don't know. I wonder who their political advisors are. Yeah, for they to have the impression, these non-Democrat independent candidate, I don't care which one of them it is. You got Donnerstag and Nelson. You have James and Bennett.
James and
I
Bennett.
mean,
Mosler, Robertson,
whoever else,
Benta, Potter.
whoever they
another,
are.
Another Potter. You know,
Yeah, Benta and Marwin Potter.
Potter, yeah, man.
How they believe that they now could start a campaign between now and the first Tuesday in November, and seat a primary candidate with the type of momentum and support coming out after this primary.
Well, here's something, and Marcellina and I spoke about this, right? When the HUD news dropped about the Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority, the Roach Francis team and the Fred Gregory Moorhead team, they missed an opportunity. They jumped on Plaskett's apparent non-relationship with the president. And I believe they should have really focused on the findings or the accusations, the allegations, right? They figured, well, how is she going to help us if she can't get along with President Trump? And to me, that's a inter-party, not a intra-party. That's an interpersonal thing there with Delegate Plaskett, because she was a impeachment manager back in 2021. To me, they should have focused on, these are the things that we want to fix when we get elected, so that we're not subjected to HUD saying that we aren't delivering the goods on behalf of the people of the Virgin Islands. And I think they missed an opportunity. And that probably was a microcosm of how personal the election got. And we saw that with the debates that we had on WTJX, or a couple of debates before that. So it's going to be interesting, but they got to have a sit down sometime soon, because we had about 10,000 territorial votes for the primary. The question now is, and the delegate, she didn't crack the 50%. Remember, you win this on a plurality, not 50% plus one. So she was at 46% with the early voting. I don't know if that number, I think I texted that to you earlier.
I think you did.
Yeah.
The math, being the math whiz that you are.
What was her overall number? 4,000?
4,493.
Yes, I think
44,
you gave me
there we go.
46.4%.
Correct. And then the
Roach
election day
Francis.
numbers came in after that.
Yes.
So she's pretty much around the same. To win a general election, you got to win 50% plus one.
Yes.
So she still has work to do to get to that number within the Democratic electorate and the electorate at large. So it's going to be interesting.
And the funny part is, you and I know that in these, one of the most visible things in this election is that we was talking about endorsement, and Governor Bryan's statement about continuing the administration. I don't know if you heard that part you were driving.
Yes, I did.
When I referred to it as a continuum care, that they would in fact be helpful. I'm mentioning this now, is that when you look at the campaign supporters for Plaskett Potter. You had Roach Francis, and even in the Fred Gregory Moorhead team, you had those people who were long ago under prior Democratic administration, and people who they're working for that administration as unclassified employees.
They're coming in quick.
They have a marching orders of this. Listen, I am Governor Bryan. My Lieutenant Governor Roach is running. I expect you to be in this camp. They were all scattered among those three camps now. And so now that you don't have to win by 50% plus one in a primary, you have to win by one if all it takes in a primary. And now that you have a winner in the primary, and those people who are accustomed to having the bread, butter, and two sides that if you hold the four corners up, the middle going to fall out, they are now going to be aligning themselves to see, you know, whether or not we can continue in the process of being beneficiaries of party handout. And that is why I was somewhat, I don't mean to be so blunt, but this has been...
We appreciate your bluntness.
Past experiences. This is why I'm wondering what and why is the non-democratic gubernatorial candidates thinking that they have a luxury of waiting unless they have something that, or they know something that me, and you don't know that one of them losers is coming over to support them and bring their supporters over.
We'll see early on. You've been in the arena.
Yeah.
I've been in the arena. Today's August 1st. I think the general election is November the 3rd. We'll find out within the next 3 weeks to a month who has a legitimate opportunity or legitimate chance to get some traction. And let's face it, out of those 4 non-democratic teams, only one is going to really get traction. It's hard to think 2 out of those 4 teams are going to get traction. So we'll see how that pans out.
It sounds like you have one.
I was going to say, which
you don't want to tell us which one.
I want to know which one.
No,
We're waiting for analyze this.
No. I could say this now, right?
Yes.
Just looking at historical. Keep in mind, right? We got 4 non-democratic teams, right? And we mentioned Mosler, Robertson, Benta, Merwin Potter, and Gustav James and Bennett. Who were 2 commissioners for the
MAP administration.
The Potter administration. The one team that has had vote getters in big numbers, albeit for different races, is the Donna Stewart Nelson team.
Okay.
Right? However, that was 10, 20, 30 years ago. And you know, Usie, you and I know about it. The shine will come on for you. I don't know if in 2026.
Smiling, so I'm listening to you.
No, because we've had days when we had great years and then we didn't have great years.
Yeah.
This is 2026. I believe Donna Stewart won for the first time in 1994. That's 32 years ago, Marcellina. The first time Senator Nelson won, we ran together in 2004. That was 22 years ago. That's a long time, you know. So, you know, we'll see how it pans out. I'll be looking forward to entertaining all of them on the candidate speak, which we've been doing since 2020. And you know, we'll see how it pans out. But by the way, I want to let the public know the hat deal, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Don't hold it against me. I've been rocking it for almost 5 years now. And you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is.
And one of the interested thing with what Neville said, and which put the voters in a position of making these questions. Like you speak about Senator Donna Stewart. That's the only elected public office title that I know that he has had. But I also know, and you know, and Marcellina possibly also knows, he's run for governor with at least he done had about five different running mates.
I think it's 4.
A few running mates.
But
6, 10,
no, but call
14.
names. So let me see if you got it, because he had Dr. Croix Christian.
2006 Croix Christian.
The late
2010 Samuel Baptiste. 2014 Angel Guito.
That's the
Torres,
one from Fire.
The Fire. 2018 Senator Lisa Chucky Hansen, and I don't believe he was in the 2022 election.
No, he got stood up a week before filing.
Yes, but it didn't pan out.
It didn't pan out.
And Senator Nelson been wanting to run for governor.
What you want me to say? Because it was.
It's how you said it.
But Senator Nelson also been wanting to run for governor.
Yes.
You
But
know,
he's ran for governor. But you remember he had the the gentleman that have the advertisement on TV for the Indian restaurant.
Oh, yes.
Will
yes,
you
but-
forget that was his
yeah,
running mate?
Yeah, but he,
And the man was only registered for 30 days or something like that.
he didn't qualify.
Isn't it
But-
wonderful?
yeah, but that was his pick.
It's always wonderful sitting down with historians,
I mean, but
political
we
historians.
can't forget that.
We can't
these
forget
things-
that, man.
when
We serve
things
with them.
happen, Yeah,
We serve with them, so we know them, you know.
yeah. So we.
But guess what? The biggest thing that jumped out in this 2026 primary, a lot of people came out to vote, man.
Yes.
Enthusiasm is there. 10,000.
I'm glad.
That's a
I'm
big number.
happy. I'm specifically happy for those in my generation seeing the increase in those numbers. I think I've been civically engaged from before I could vote.
Mhm.
When I turned 18, I think I turned 18, and I think maybe the next day or so I went and I registered to vote. So but I'm happy to see more of my counterparts, the millennials, those in the younger generation, going out and casting their votes, this primary. And I hope that continues. And I want to see more of you show up for general election in November as well, too. And, maybe next election, start offering yourselves up for service. So start now, immersing yourselves in the Senate process, in the Board of Elections, in the Board of Education, going to those meetings and becoming civically engaged.
One of the interesting thing that I want to get from Neville before he leaves, I don't know, he was being coy with us, but he left me the impression that of the four gubernatorial teams that are no party running in independent, you believe the one with the best chance is the one with the two former senators, not the one with the two former commissioners.
Yes, I'm just be honest there. But we've been involved in sports. Upsets happen.
Yes.
So I'm not ruling that out. But we'll see who gets traction, and that's what it's all about. Now I know one thing that could be intimidating, Marcellina and Usie, is that late money that came in for Plaskett Potter. You better believe more of that gonna be coming in now that she's won.
Well,
That's how it works.
Oh yeah. Well, the factor is whether or not because I wasn't talking more so about just the money factor, whether or not these non-democratic, independent gubernatorial teams are structured and organized and ready to provide.
So we know most like our money.
well, we do.
No,
We-
we talking about the money. What they have a game plan?
You're talking about structure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
structure.
I agree.
Organization to deliver and to go out there, not to
all right.
deliver the win in a manner where you could go out there and
To look formidable.
To look formidable.
Yeah, and
Well,
beat the bushes.
We're going to have to continue this conversation and analyze this at
Yeah,
some
man.
point
Anytime.
eventually. Neville, I want to thank you so much for coming and
No,
sitting
man.
down and joining
I enjoyed this.
joining
I enjoyed
us.
this.
It's been a pleasure. I do believe that we're going to be speaking with Senator Kenny Gittins shortly. So
Did he made it through this
he
primary?
Thanks for
He did
Thanks
make
for
it
allowing,
over.
thanks for allowing me. So we're good.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you for joining us.
You
All
got it.
right. So yes, he did make it through the primary.
Yeah, good.
Usie.
Then I get a chance to see his face.
Yes, you get a chance to see his face. I want you to be nice to our guest, Usie. Okay?
I don't have to be nice. He's from Frederickstead. I'm from
He from
Frederickstead.
Frederickstead. You from? Well, we all from Frederickstead.
Yeah, but
All three of us from Frederickstead. Two Westman and a West girl.
and if he thin skinned, then we're responsible for that part. There. He could be quite thin skinned when he's ready to, especially when it's me.
Okay. Well, we do want to welcome Senator Kenny Gittins to our coverage. Senator Gittins, how are you feeling this evening?
Blessed. Thank you for asking.
So what do you have to say to the voters this evening who helped you to advance in the Democratic primary?
I definitely want to say a big thank you to everyone. First, though, I give all thanks to the Almighty, and then I thank the people of St. Croix who came out to vote. All, whether they voted for me or not, I was really impressed with the turnout of the early voting, which is a measure that I championed back in the 31st legislature, I believe it was. So again, thank you to the people of St. Croix, and I am grateful and looking forward to continuing the work. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues.
All right. Usie?
Good evening, and I was talking about you before you sit down. I don't know. She was telling me to make sure.
I hope you were talking good about
Yeah,
me.
no, she said make sure that I treat you nice.
Oh, okay.
And,
Yes,
and
that too.
that too. Yes, so I will try my best to do that.
No, we enjoy having you in the hot seat.
Yes,
We
and
enjoy having you on
let
that
me
seat.
begin
I
by
could imagine so.
let me begin by congratulating you, Senator Gittins, for your successful Democratic Party primary win. I told Marcellina, and we were just speaking with former Senator Neville James that the donkey race is now over. Now it's a horse race because now we have other bigger candidates. I want to inquire of you based on the early voting comment that you just made. We were also talking about, man, we probably need to get rid of this primary day and not have to pay money for 3 voting centers in St. Croix, 3 in St. Thomas, 2 in St. John, and just turn the party primaries into all the voting thing where, they put out enough machines over a period of day and they just come in, right down to Saturday on the day of the primary in comparison to taking on those type of expenses. I know you Democrats don't trust each other, so you're afraid of having
I
conventions
want you
and
to
caucuses.
stop right there, but you Democrats don't trust each other.
In the primary.
But I don't want you to get me in trouble with my fellow Democrats.
Let's listen to you.
And I say that because I am, and I hope I wouldn't fall on the sword now, but I speak truth. I'm the only Democrat that vote against a budget for a party primary.
This is true.
So I'm saying I was hoping that you didn't take me in that angle, but you did. But I never supported that because it's not all inclusive. It's not an open primary to everyone, and this is public funds that's being used. So now we're looking at the early voting, which I do want to give full credit to former Senator Adelbert Bryan, who brought the idea to me, and I ran with the idea in the 31st legislature. So to you, Senator Bryan, I say thank you. It's been a real success. I think this is the second of 7 times that they have probably done the early voting that we had such a grand turnout. So I'm saying when I saw the numbers of early voters this term, I was wondering whether or not the election system and the board will meet to strategize to decide if to open 3 polling places, because more than half of what you would have expected to vote in the primary election have already casted their vote. And so I look at how we're spending the monies.
Yeah. So you as you noted, you were the only one to vote against funding the using
only
taxpayer,
Democrat.
the only Democrat to vote against funding the Democratic primary because it not being open to everyone. Do you think that that's some legislation that you think you would be willing to put forward, is to allow it to become an open primary?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, one man, one vote is 15 of us. It must have at least 8 of us to get a measure passed. I, in my second term, was the junior senator that championed the revision of the Title 18. Went through that code section by section, along with a few other colleagues. And in the middle of it, I was already told, you ain't gonna get that by, you ain't gonna get that by. But we did the work. We crossed every T and dot every I. Former Senator Bryan too was there. He was on the board at the time. And a lot of issues that we're facing today, had we addressed all those that we did during, I believe that was the 31st legislature as well, into the 31st it was. Had we addressed those measures, things would have been a little smoother. I do believe.
And just for clarity, so I had made the initial inquiry of you, not to put you on the spot, to make you feel like you have to fall on your sword. I think before you arrived and was able to join us, we were really concerned about $275,000.
Yes.
I am concerned as well.
For primary and whether or not we need to revisit it. And then the other portion that Marcellina inquired of you, I don't think you responded to her initial first part of her question, whether or not you will support open primaries. Open primaries, since we're paying 250,000.
75.
275, I'm sorry, 25,000 more, 275,000. Should the primary, I pay for it, I'm not a Democrat, I don't get tax returns, I pay taxes. So should I be able on primary days and all the voting days to come in and ask for a ballot and vote for a Democratic
So to
candidate?
your statement, that's
Yes.
why at times I feel as if I'm standing on the limb all by myself. Because here it is, the measure passed, but you didn't hear the public outcry on this, that you all are taking my taxpayers' money to do this and I can't participate.
Yeah.
So I'm standing alone. Listen, my mother isn't here today, but bless her. She's the wisest person that I have known. And so this is like water off a duck back for me. But I will speak truth.
Okay.
And I don't support it. I don't like it. And I think that we do need to revisit it. Now, whether or not it needs to be a open primary, I mean, we could have a conversation. Do you need a primary at all?
And if I may, Marcellina, and I'm going to finish with this last thing. if I
Very
may.
Yes, and
briefly.
I'd like
And
to
that's-
before, because I tell
Very
you,
briefly,
you're
because
going to let the some of the Democrats upset with me now
No,
again.
Very briefly.
I only want to say something else because it goes right back to the first thing I said it when you sat down, which is because of lack of trust that the Democrats who are elected in the legislature feel that they cannot trust the party to conduct a free, fair, and transparent
So-
election unless the government put money in it and put it out.
So we could
That's-
move
that's
to
the
something
impression.
else, or let me move
I
off
done.
stage. This is
Yeah.
what-
Yeah.
I done.
like I tell them all the time.
Yeah.
If you don't trust the party, don't run under the party.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
It done.
Oh, we're going to take those final words from you, Senator Gittins. Congratulations again this evening.
Thank you
I-
so much. Again, I thank the people of St. Croix. I thank the people of the territory for participating in the overall process. We have a lot of work to do, and I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I do think that we would have a group that will work hard and feverishly to move these islands forward.
All right.
Again, thank you. I am
And thank you for joining
And
us.
thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you.
All right, Senator Gittins. Now, Usie, I want to talk us about something. I think it's very important that we know before we finish out this evening. The Virgin Islands could possibly elect, its first woman as a governor. With the Plaskett Potter team advancing into the general election, and if they continue to be successful, we will have for the first time in Virgin Islands history, a woman leading the territory. What do you think that says to you're a girl dad as well too? You have daughters.
Oh, a whole three of them.
What does that say to what do you think that says to the young women out here in the territory? About women in leadership.
I think as a territory, we have, over the past decades, elected women in public office. We have not had a competitive candidate running for the office of governor who was a woman over some long period of years. Competitive in the context of them being able to, in fact, come out of the primary, which this is the second time that we've had one.
Donna Christensen.
Donna Christensen. But we've also had Ruby Rouse, who has run for governor. We've had Lorraine Berry, who ran for governor with St. Clair Williams. think she was in the primary also and lost the primary. And back then you could change your still file to run for office. So she lost in the Democratic primary. What it would have been Senator Lorraine Berry and then Senator Sinclair Williams. He was the running mate. They lost and she was able. So I think the most important statement that can be made, and I listened to the comments from, I believe was a question posed during the debate from both women that was in the Democratic Party primary, that they're not concerned about being the first woman.
Yes.
Or the first woman to serve in a position of governor, that they are echoing that they want to be understood and respected as one that is capable of fulfilling the office of governor and be able to lead a governance approach to the development of the Virgin Islands. And I would concur with that. And I don't think that in the past, these women did not win the election because they were women running for the office of governor. They won because the general public just wasn't prepared to accept whether or not they were capable to take on the office of governor and be leaders in the governance of the territory.
I think I could disagree with you partially.
I don't have a
in that
problem with
way.
you to disagree,
I
but
think I could disagree with you partially. I do think that we do, while women lead many of the households that we have here in the Virgin Islands, I do think we live in a very patriarchal society, and I do think that sometimes, I think voters sometimes might choke at the idea, maybe in the past, I'm not talking currently, at the idea of a woman possibly leading, in leading the territory.
And I agree that you are entitled to that perception. All I'm simply saying that over the past years,
Yes.
the women that I knew that ran for the office of governor, I believe they had the capacity to lead. I just didn't believe that they had the capacity and the opportunity provided to them to be successful in the political arena of winning a particular campaign. And I went back to Delegate Christensen. I mean, she handedly lost to the MAP and Potter team. You had
but she did win the Democratic nomination in a crowded field.
Yes,
I think went up
yes, she
against
did.
LaDonna Starr, Greg Francis, Molito Smith, Marvin Pickering, and Gerard Lodge James II
Yes.
as well too. So
So that speaks to your point.
it does.
That she was capable and successful. She won a primary, but when it came down to the general election, I don't think that there was a discussion of whether or not we should have MAP as a man for governor and Donna as a woman for governor. It was a discussion about which of these two teams will be best to govern the territory, and that is why I disagree with you. That I don't think that the people felt in that position whether it was man or woman. They just felt we were going with the best team.
All right. Well, that concludes our coverage this evening. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. I am Marcellina Ventura-Douglas.
And I'm Usie Richards, and I want to thank Marcellina for allowing me to be a part of her very well-known presentations of the news and now of the Democratic Party primary election night coverage. Thank you all for joining us.
So much. Have a great night.
This program was underwritten in part by
VINGN, the Virgin Islands Next Generation Network, is 100% fiber, interconnecting the U.S. Virgin Islands and connecting the VI to the world. A proud supporter of Channel 12, your PBS station.
and viewers like you.